Good evening. Welcome back to another episode of Please Call Me Crazy, brought to you by Free People Radio and powered by our favorite sponsor, TireGet.com. That's TireGet.com. You have to buy tires from somebody. You might as well buy them from us and help fund the movement, help support the movement. We believe in the freedom of movement, and that's exactly what the establishment wants to take from you now. I'm your host, Royce White, here in the belly of the beast, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and this is episode 203. Today we have another incredible HEBROES episode. Today in the studio with us is the great Professor Penn joining us again. We told you that we would have him back soon because we had a good falling off of HEBROES episodes. People love the HEBROES episodes. They really love the professor, but I think they like the sort of father-son.
The interplay.
Yeah, they like the father-son dynamic.
Good evening.
We got Professor Penn right here in the studio. And in addition to this is our first HEBROES interview style. HEBROES guest episode. Guest episode.
Yes.
Yeah. First one we've done. Well, we did a Please Call Me Crazy with Dan Schultz.
That's correct.
Me and you, but that was Please Call Me Crazy.
Now we've got really an exciting interviewee today.
Yeah, and we're following the lead from Action for Liberty. They had her on a week back, 2 weeks back.
About a week ago. Yeah.
About a week ago. Yeah, shrouded in controversy. Marisa Simonetti is in the studio with us as well.
Candidate.
Yes, running for county commissioner in
Hennepin County District 6.
Yes, and she's in the studio with us, so we thank you for being here.
Yeah.
And just so everybody is aware, we are just returning from the Federal Reserve Peace March this afternoon on this July 4th. So this is pre-recorded. I know everybody's going to be watching it on Friday, but we're coming back from the Federal Reserve Peace March, which is why I got my bulletproof vest here, and my shirt, my white polo shirt that I had on is covered in brown.
It's ruined.
It's ruined.
Let's face it.
But we wouldn't miss a chance to have a podcast with Marissa Simonetti because I don't have a shirt. I mean, so hey, the bulletproof vest is gonna. It's kind of symbolic of the times we live in too. And it's symbolic.
How?
Well, I mean, first of all, I had to actually look up the statutory laws on bulletproof vests because in some states it's actually illegal to have a bulletproof vest. Not in most states, but in some states they have certain laws around bulletproof vests.
It's illegal to have?
No, it's in some states there are certain laws about bulletproof vests. Because bottom line is I had to look it up just to make sure. And I found out in Minnesota you're perfectly legal for anybody to own a bulletproof vest. It's actually legal for any store to sell a bulletproof vest, but I looked it up anyway. But what I mean is we are living in times of great political turmoil and violence.
Good word.
Yeah, great political turmoil and violence. And, we're going to talk about this on the podcast today, this problem that Sean Holster and the Minneapolis Republicans had with us doing this rally in the first place.
The shame of the Minneapolis Republicans?
The shame.
Shame.
I know. Wait, just slow down. Hold on, wait. You get a look at the professor's face.
Let me off the chain.
The professor is very upset with you Minneapolis Republicans. And let's be clear. Sean Holster is in charge of the Minneapolis Republicans social media site. He's the chair. We can't throw all the responsibility on all Minneapolis Republicans. That's ridiculous. In fact, it's rightful now that people call into question their leadership there in Minneapolis in the Republican. So what happened is, and let me. Well, first to answer your first question, I have to wear a vest because when the New York Times and Axios and the Washington Post and all these other mainstream media industrial complex outlets mark you as a target for far right-wing conspiracy theories, what they're really doing is gaslighting the American public and any crazy out there to believe that I, Royce, am the sole threat to their existence. And really it's the LGBTQ. I'm just going to say it like it is. I really think that the mainstream media is trying to gaslight the LGBTQ, people who are already struggling with real existential identity, mental health issues. And that's not bigoted. That's by their own admission. The LGBTQ community is very afflicted with severe mental illness, and they have some of the worst mental health and mental illness outcomes of any demographic in the country. So when the New York Times says that Royce White is a transphobe or homophobe, what they're really hoping is that somebody who's in the LGBTQ community will be so in despair that they'll sacrifice their freedom or their life to try and do me bodily harm. So Here's the bulletproof vest. On to the Minneapolis Republicans thing. It's not on all of them. It's Sean Holster, who was the chair. And I got to start with the story, Marissa, and then we're going to talk about your story, but we got time. We got a lot of time. As the story goes, we reached out, my campaign, one of my campaign staffers, reached out to Sean to inquire if he and any of the other Minneapolis Republicans would be interested in collaborating with us to hold this rally, at the Federal Reserve. And he just cussed her out. I mean, and I've met Sean. I met Sean before. I went to the CD5 convention. I spoke at the CD5 convention, a convention that I must say was significantly underattended than it was when I ran in Congress.
And it was much
must have been 1/4 of what it was when we were there in 2022.
How about compared to the other congressional districts?
Oh, it's not even. I mean, it was a speck.
Right.
It was a speck of. Now, I don't know I don't know what to attribute that to. I'm not sure how they're organized. I'm not sure how many Republicans knew, but that's not to say that the Minneapolis Republicans are an afterthought, because there are a fair amount of Minneapolis Republicans, obviously, because of how they vote in the right. I mean,
they're there.
They're there. 200,000 people did, I think, vote Republican in the Congressional 5 race in 2022. I think so. I think there's about 200,000 Republican votes.
They need leadership.
They need leadership, and the point that I just couldn't understand. Well, one, what gives this guy a right to curse out a staffer who doesn't have a say-so anyway? I mean, she didn't have a say-so. She was just calling on behalf of the campaign.
And I'm sure she was calling in a very respectful fashion.
Yeah, of course. Well, she just.
We know the woman. She's not a bomb thrower. I mean,
she's very, very. Well, she has her own controversy.
But she's not a rude person.
She's not rude. No, she's not. She's very soft-spoken and
gentle, actually.
So I got off the phone with her, and she's like, yeah, she was kind of, taken aback. She was in shock. She's like, I don't know why this guy is, cursing at me like this. And
she set me up. Called me. She goes, what do you think of Sean Holster? And I didn't even know she talked to him. I said, well, I've dealt with him. He seems fine to me. I never had a problem with him. Because the interesting thing is, I did deal with him, and I tried to make a friendship with him. And we went out for breakfast, had a very pleasant breakfast.
Yeah.
There was no stress that I could see between us. And I tried to get along with everybody. At the march today, one of the counter-protesters was getting down. I actually didn't know it. He was getting quite animated around one of the security people. So I walked over there to back the thing up.
Yeah.
We exchanged phone numbers. We're going out for coffee.
Great.
So there's no reason to have hyperbolic.
It's not a necessity.
It's not
not an inevitability.
It's not who we are on a one-to-one basis.
And again, so he curses her out. She tells me about it. I say, send me his number. Because I had his number somewhere in my text messages, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to get, I didn't feel like going through it. So she sends me the number. I call him. I say, hello, how you doing? This is Royce, Sean. Is this Sean? He's like, yeah. Royce, how you doing? I go, not good. I hear you're cursing at my female staffers about the rally at the Fed. And he goes, I sure as hell did. I'll curse you out too. What? Who the fuck do you think you are? You little pencil neck twerp? You come say this shit in person. Everybody's tough on the phone. Everybody's tough in the internet. You come say this shit in person. You're real tough cursing out women. Come say this shit to my face. Click, hung up. Go straight to Twitter to I was threatened. I guess you would think of that as a threat. That's a very, very sneaky little punk thing to do, right? To go and curse out a woman and talk like you're tough. Then when you get on the phone with a man who challenges you to actually live up to the shit that you're saying, you hang up and then you go back to the internet to get sympathy as a victim. This is the Republican Minneapolis leadership. And it's a real microcosm of Republicanism all across the country.
All I want to say is, Susan said to me, what do you think of him? And I was very relaxed about it. Like, I didn't think we had an issue with Sean Holster. I've been trying to liaison with every Republican officer in the state. And I've made this statement on my own Professor Penn podcast. If you don't attack me or the movement, I'm not going to attack you.
Right.
Unless you lie. I mean, you could not attack, and then if you're a liar, hey, we're not putting up with any lying because we can't move the country forward living on lies. But generally speaking, we don't have to agree with each other to be respectful.
Right.
In fact, we don't. We would be weird if everybody, was in lockstep.
That would be a sign of bad things to
that
come.
would make us Democrats.
That would make us robots.
And even that's breaking down, right?
Right.
So we're American citizens. We have different ideas. We have different opinions. We like that. We just want to discourse in a respectful way. It was such a, and then Susan called me first before she called you. And as soon as I said, I don't have anything bad to say about him. I'm cool. He's cool.
Did you tell Susan not to call me with it?
She was freaked out. No, what why you know that there was something that happened that was not okay is because I could tell in her interface with me in our conversation that she was truly threatened. Now, come on. That's not, we're not going to be threatening each other in our own party.
Well, and it's not even, look, and I want to say this. My friend was thrown in prison, federal prison for a misdemeanor. Free the great Steve Bannon. Talked to him. He said he's doing great. He's a warrior. He's going to make it through. My friend was thrown in prison for a political witch hunt. This is a full contact sport. This is full contact blood sport. And we do have to be ready. Look, arguments, fights, threats, these are things that happen with our founding fathers, which is why on a day like July 4th, for us to try and sanitize American history and heritage as though there's no violence implied in our identity is dishonest on face value. So I'm not against people getting mad, people going to blows. I'm not against people hurling some soft threats. The question is, for what? In this instance, the main question isn't about what was said or how it was said. It was why it was said.
And why was it said?
Why was it said?
Why was it said?
Well, it was said because the conventional wisdom now and the conservative movement or the mainstream Republican Party is that somehow we're going to take this country back without providing any counter narrative or counterweight to the monopoly on public demonstration that the Democrats have held. And so any protest that we do in the city could be met by counter protest, and because that could lead to violence,
would be our fault.
We are putting the city in danger. Really? These are the soft belly. Okay, go ahead. You got it.
American citizens gathering together lawfully,
yes,
peacefully.
Isn't that a constitutional right?
Yes.
But if you don't believe in that, how can you be a patriot?
This is the essence of republicanism: freedom of assembly, freedom of speech.
Right.
If we can't, as Republicans, practice republicanism, I guess we're practicing.
I guess for all these
Democrats.
I guess for all these anti-Russian, neocons, I guess they're proving Alexander Dugin right. Anytime a Republican is unwilling to exercise their First Amendment rights and see that as fundamental to constitutional integrity, anytime that happens, you are proving Alexander Dugin right when he said conservatism is just another form of liberalism. It exactly is that. If you won't publicly protest or if you assume culpability, and that's what we're really talking about here. What Sean Holster is really saying is we as the Minneapolis Republicans, who he's speaking on behalf of, we are going to be seen as liable, as accountable.
So he divorced himself.
Himself from the campaign. Now,
from the endorsed candidate.
And Marissa, I want to bring you in here, and I'm sorry to keep you waiting here because you're really the star of the show today.
No,
they hear me and David talk all the time. You were at the protest today. You showed up.
Yeah, everyone was.
Why'd you show up today?
I was a little bit of a hard sell with you. Originally, I had my reservations, and that's my personality.
Pull that mic right in front of you, though.
Yeah, I take.
Turn this way a little bit for me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to do. Yeah, turn the table. Oh well, you're trying to face us. Move the mic up back a little bit. Yes, there you go. Perfect.
All right. Yeah. So I had my reservations. I took some time to see who this guy is. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've seen, and you guys are talking about this, is there's a lot of just fearful moves in the Republican Party. And we need guys who actually have the kahunas to stand up and do something and to say what's really going on. And I think you're someone who's like that. And you're someone who's like that. Rather than just being scared of being, we're going to be blamed if something goes wrong. We're going to be blamed no matter what we do. So just do something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the march we did today went off without a hitch.
Yes.
I mean, we had security there. We had tons of security there.
Yes.
I even saw somebody on Twitter who made fun of the turnout, which is, here's another I want to say about Democrats.
The strategy. I think you need to tell the dirty Dustins of the world the strategy.
The dirty Dustins.
What, the strategy?
Of just the event was
It's good
announced
sometimes to do things spontaneously. It's good sometimes to do things
without a lot of planning.
Without a lot of planning and without a lot of participation. See, but here's where a lot of these Republicans show that they're really leftist, Democrat, Marxists as well. Anytime you buy into this idea that success is measured solely by multiplied propagation, you're a socialist. I mean, by definition. And that, I mean,
you got to draw that a little bit
I got to
more.
flush that out,
please.
Okay.
Yeah. Explain.
I'm sorry. I don't want to go over people's head. I mean, I know I'm just a dumb jock, but bear with me.
Yeah, they can't decide if you're too sophisticated
Or too stupid.
or a dummy.
Yeah.
They're having a problem with that,
Okay.
trying to get you in a hole. there.
Social media, for example, the architecture of social media is predicated on socialist ideology. And what I mean by that is this idea, number one, that sin is socialized, which is really what's happening on social media. Sin itself is socialized. Yeah. I mean, the internet is socializing sin. It's roping everybody into it
taking away the cost.
Taking away the risk and in that way kind of making it a norm, a soft norm,
Kind
a
of
subtle
making it
norm.
lukewarm.
Yes. But again, what I'm saying is the real danger of social media is manufactured consent. It's this idea that if enough people like it, if enough people retweet it, if enough people will show up, that is the measure of success.
That's social proof.
Yes, and what it really props up is this heresy of democracy, this heresy that all majorities are made righteous and equal. They're not. But that is a Democrat trick, which is why they tout democracy so fiercely, is because they want people to really believe if enough people say it's right, that means it's right. But there's nothing logical about that. It totally rejects the possibility of tyranny to not only rise up, but corruption to seep into the populace and become widespread amongst the common people. I mean, the modern depiction of democracy really suggests that there is no such thing as a corrupt population. That people themselves, a whole nation, a city, a community, can't be corrupted through the root. And that's part of their fundamental tenet is like, well, no, it's just my truth. If a guy shoots a guy out in the streets, no, it was just his circumstance. It was just the oppression he lived under. It's almost like kind of this open revolving door to no morals or no sort of code whatsoever. So my point is, with this socialist idea, with these Republicans like a Dustin Grady or whoever else who say, not enough people showed up to your rally, that means it's not a success. I mean, in what world do we remember American history, American heritage by being the many that stood for what was right? Isn't the common archetype of heroism throughout Western civilization and all of human history that the few usually are the ones who stand
The rugged individualist.
in righteousness? I mean, that's actually the founding of our country. We defected from the British Empire and the European, Commonwealth, you could call it. We defected from it as a small group of rebels, right?
And when that all started, it started with individual citizens
Yes.
that had enough of it.
Yes.
But the people that they were hanging out with at the pub, they were getting high and having a good time. They weren't at that place.
Right.
They all got drunk together, and the one guy stood up and said, "Fuck these people." That's what they, in their own, whatever they said in
Yes.
1755,
Yes.
whatever it was. But there was just, and we revere these people historically, but the progressive education system has taken that reverence and made it to nothing.
And and that's what I mean about social media is that they've just normalized this Marxist radical materialist way of thinking. It's like everything's to be measured by the outcomes, by the results, by the numbers. When you reduce the human existence down to price and numbers, you're bound to become corrupt. And that's why Dustin Grady and the other online trolls, they actually believe right and wrong, righteousness and wickedness is going to be determined by a majority. Even it's so anti-Christian, right? Because I mean, there's no majority consensus for salvation, is there?
That's the part.
Tell me, am I wrong?
No, that's the part that really has me pissed.
God has a singular say in salvation.
That pissed me off so bad because
we all think.
No.
Even the other saints don't get a say in salvation, in the kingdom of heaven. God has a sole singular say in judgment. So even
of each soul individually.
Even that's anti-democratic, which again, the heresy of democracy. Anyway, I want to go to Marissa. I'm sorry to have you stand here. We had to give that backdrop. I'm sitting here in the bulletproof vest. And
I just got, before we go,
Okay,
I just
go ahead.
want to say this idea, this is the thing that's pissing me off more than anything else. These people allege, like you made the comment about people wrap themselves in the cloth of their military service.
Yes.
A lot of these people wrap themselves in the cloth of Christianity.
Amen.
But didn't Christ say, he who is without sin?
Cast the first stone.
Right. And these people are living in glass houses and casting stones every day. They must hate themselves. They hate themselves so much, I won't deal with them. Can't deal with them. They're just going to hate themselves until they find salvation.
A beautiful segue to the story here of Marisa Simonetti, who was in the media lately as you were detained because of a domestic dispute. I want to give you a chance to talk about that a little bit on the podcast, and let's talk about your time in the Republican Party and what you got going on in the office you're running for. But tell me the story. I mean, it went viral. You went viral with me. I mean, I've been going viral now. I'm the apple of their eye for the last month.
The viral master over here.
Yeah, but you crept in there, and it was like, now it's, look at what the Minnesota Republican Party is selecting for their candidates. You got Royce White, who's a nut job. I mean, and obviously in the first 20 minutes here, I've proven how much of a nut job I really am. And then you got Marisa Simonetti, who's had this domestic dispute, and if you put a mugshot out of somebody, it's supposed to automatically discredit them. I guess that's what they tried with Trump, but that backfired. Now they're trying it with Steve Bannon. He's only going to get bigger. And I'm sure at some point they'll arrest me and try and make that a big deal too, but that won't work because, black people, they're not really so sensitive to mugshots. That's more your country club Republicans. But Marissa, tell us tell us the story.
Yeah. So, I mean, I have a 5-bedroom, 6-bathroom house. It's just my son and I. And so I thought, you know what? We've been here 6 months. Why don't I put this on Airbnb, which I later found out you're not allowed to do in Edina.
Oh.
Which was all the cops cared about when they showed up. They didn't care about, she hit you, she's supposed to leave. They just want to know, did you pay the fee for the unlicensed rental? Are you allowed to do? So it was all about the money thing. Right. So anyways, she was asked to leave for violating the terms of safety terms. She didn't leave. She barricaded herself in my basement. On Thursday, the cops were out 3 times and did absolutely nothing. After she's been physical to me, she's been asked to leave. They said it's a civil issue. You got to go through the courts, which looks like you give them 14 days notice. So the lady would have been in my house for 2 weeks, popping off in front of my son. And then you can you get to pay the $295 filing fee, and then you get to wait and make sure that you dot your I's and cross your T's on all the paperwork. Otherwise, it can get thrown out. And this lady was an attorney. So anyways, my son was supposed to come home Friday at 5, and I thought, I can't have her in my house. So you're scrolling through the Reddit threads, and your mind's going at 3 a.m., and I thought, if she doesn't leave tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a plan. So I went up to PetSmart, and I purchased a tarantula for $33. You guys have seen the movie Home Alone?
Yes.
Yeah. Isn't that movie great?
Classic. American classic. I love it.
Yeah. It's literally a classic.
You can't have a Christmas and not watch Home Alone.
Exactly. The first one is the greatest.
Yes, absolutely.
So, but I thought I really got to play this up, right? You can't just deploy a tarantula. You got to build.
That laugh is scary. It scares me. I'm not gonna lie.
My Harley Quinn laugh.
Yes, it scares me a little bit. In conjunction with the tarantula, I'm a bit nervous, but I'm gonna hold it together. Go ahead.
What we've learned is now crazy is a compliment, right?
It is 100%.
It's a compliment. Thank you. Yes, I am.
So the Edina police, you call them out 3 times. They give you no rhythm. They tell you, look, there are laws, there's a bureaucracy. We have laws that don't favor American citizens who own homes and decide to rent them out to other people. So we're not going to help you get this person out. We don't care what they've done. They could have assaulted you. They could have, brought a weapon into your home. Whatever it is, you're stuck with this person now. You have to go through this long process to try and get this person out, and our hands are off.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, they trespassed her on Thursday. She was supposed to leave by 10:30 Thursday night, and some man came to my sliding glass door with a bag, and I was like, "Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm from Instacart." And I was like, "Okay, prove it." He pulls up a $400 Instacart order from Home Depot. Inside the bag are camera equipment and barricade equipment. And I said, "This can't be right. She's supposed to be leaving right now." And
so you had a crazy person in your house.
Yes, literally. You're asked to leave. You're given time, and you buy barricade equipment and cameras.
Whoa,
come on.
I got to get this right
Please.
because I haven't heard this. Now I got to say back what I'm hearing because I want to make sure I got this.
No,
correctly.
that's why I had her on because I know this. Me and her talked about it on the phone. I'm like,
Yeah.
I could read from what was. It's a crazy story.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're telling me you own a home.
So I'm just renting there.
Oh, you're a renter there.
I'm renting there,
Okay, and
which was
you-
the other issue. Apparently, I wasn't supposed to do it.
And you sublet or you
Yes.
let this person in.
Yes.
There was conflict.
Yes.
You're the person that is in control of that property.
Yes.
You said, please leave.
Yes.
They said no. You called the police.
Not just no, but she skewed my face, swearing at me, threatening my campaign. I can't have behavior like this in front of my son. We don't do that in my home. So that's go on. Yeah.
So the bottom line of it was she took her own self-defense
Yes.
Took
And
matters
this-
into her own hands.
because she was getting no
The
redress.
tarantula's
Yes.
a crazy choice.
Well, it's colorful for sure.
Well, I mean, it certainly is unique choice. Yeah.
It's colorful.
But I mean, you're a young woman,
Yeah.
and so and this is part of the, what immediately when I looked at it and we had the conversation about what happened. If it was a man, she wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Right. And women can be and are very vicious and violent towards other women
Yes.
when it's not mediated by men. And this is why women who say that they don't need men have some significant reevaluating to do about how human nature really works. Because when the interaction between women is not mediated by the physical natural advantages and strength differentiation of men, they're vicious.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this woman was clearly basically saying to you, you're just a tiny little young
Yeah.
woman,
Yes.
and I'm not leaving.
Yeah.
If it was me,
she'd have left.
she'd have left.
Right.
Yeah.
Or I would have drug her out of there.
Well, she's an attorney. She wanted to threaten me with the law subtly. Threaten me. Oh,
That's not a shock either.
I've got in writing.
She looked pretty liberal too.
I don't know what her political, but I mean, the behavior is just crazy.
Not many lawyers aren't liberal these days.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Yeah. She moved like a liberal. I saw that that video that you showed of her going off, and was she high? Was she doing drugs?
She has. I don't know. One night my fire alarm went off of the whole house at 2 a.m.
Oh, she's smoking.
I don't know what was going on in the basement. She comes up in plain clothes. I've got my little eye mask, sleep mask on. I'm like, what's going on? For 45 minutes at 2 a.m., the fire alarms just kept going. So I don't know what she was doing. We'll get to the Reddit guys later.
Okay.
But there was some bamboozlements in my home that, like, as a mother, as a single mom, I have a responsibility and lower threshold and tolerance for perhaps risk in my home. And I called the police. I was looking for some strong masculine protection, and we've got the blow off. So I was like, okay, Mama Bear's coming out. Believe.
And you landed on tarantula.
Well, that was part of the plan.
Okay.
Let's not forget the Legos and thumbtacks.
Okay, yeah. Tell me the plan. Say it.
So I was like, I really got to foreplay this thing. I've got a nice Sonos speaker in my house. What kind of music did I choose to play? I was playing Christian gospel praise and worship, singing hallelujah, thank you, Jesus. I'm banging my pots and pans together, and I turned off the internet so she can't, we can't live without internet anymore.
Right.
Turn off the internet, and I'm just up there making a scene. Mm-hmm. So I was on the phone, the guy who owns the house, the landlord.
But your kid's not in the house.
No, I had to get her out. It's noon. I was like, I got 5 hours to get this crazy lady out. What if she's already hit my arm? Cops did nothing. What if she does something and it's just me and my son, and she had somebody else in the house with her? So I like, if it's just me, I can handle myself.
Right.
But like if it's me and my son,
It's dangerous.
it's yes, exactly. Like I was scared. So yeah, I started unscrewing.
Wait, stop.
Yeah.
I hope all the Republicans that are watching this with the desire to throw shade on everybody, including me, recognize that there's multiple street corners to view things from. This is a completely different narrative than what I was exposed to. Your
Yes.
narrative didn't make it in to the broad corpse and the gray G world of bullshit.
Right.
Yeah.
And so and then with the thing that pissed me off, of course, and you've already alluded to it, these assholes linked you two together. Like, look what the Republican Party is doing.
Yeah.
And I have a comment I want to make about this. So just let me go for a second.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Because I am perceivably the prototypical Republican. I own a business. I raised 5 kids. I'm white, allegedly. Right?
Stop LARPing.
Right. Well, I'm just saying, I can blend in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I'm gentle, kind, donate to the candidates, try to serve the party. I'm a normal guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The party has generated an endless war, $35 trillion in debt, and an open border, and complete social chaos. So I look at these people and I'm thinking, boy, you want to have these curated candidates that
Yeah.
are so perfect on the outside, but their inside is all corruption. And the corruption is anti-America.
Yeah.
And why do I say anti-America? Because it is guaranteed in our Constitution, in Section 4, Article 4, that every state is guaranteed a Republican form of governance. And people don't know what that means. What it means is it's a state of mind. State of mind. A state of mind that you believe in freedom of assembly, freedom of, free speech. What we did today at the protest,
Yes.
which the Minneapolis Republican chair, Sean Holster, said, oh, terrifying. It's so embarrassing for me as a Minnesota Republican. I'm actually embarrassed by my party. The lack of understanding of what it is to be a Republican must mean they're Democrats. I'm just going to take it that way unless they prove otherwise.
Right.
They may have a different story like you do. But the rush to judgment, without any process, without any, and the use of facts as weapons, as if these people don't have their own personal histories. But they're too afraid.
Well, they don't really use the facts. What they do is they hold a certain number of institutions as beyond reproach and almost gospel. And what they say is, okay, well, Marissa was detained. She was arrested. She was brought in. She was given a mugshot. We're going to put the mugshot out in the official police report as a way to say, not that she was necessarily guilty. What they're saying is she's bad element.
Mm-hmm.
What they're saying is whatever's going on in her life, she's making choices that are unbecoming of somebody who should represent
That's
you.
my point.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's exactly my point.
Yes.
So we're going to have, what'd you call him, Neocon Joe?
Neocon Joe?
Neocon Joe is representative of a class of politicians
Yes.
that are running this country.
And they've been running it.
Into
Me
the
and
ground.
the Marissa Simonettis have not been running this
And
country.
the Professor Penns, we're on the outside.
Yes.
We're coming. Because,
Yes.
you know what?
Go
I've
ahead.
said this.
Go ahead.
You can't let the inmates run the asylum unless the doctors are mass murdering fuckheads. And that's what we got right now. We got a bunch of mass murdering. They're mass murderers. What they are taking our energy as a country is mass murder on a global scale.
Not to mention the actual mass murder that they commit.
There you go. That's what it is.
Yes.
So we're going to aggrandize these people with these clean histories. They didn't throw tarantulas at people. Oh, they didn't get divorced. You know what? If we started digging into these people's, we don't do it because it's not relevant to the issues.
No, I'll tell you why we don't do it. We don't do it because people never even think to question, because the people who are curated are protected by the media.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
So the media is not going to do it. Most people don't do deep digging into individual politicians anyway. They accept who steps up. That's a feature.
It's only
a feature of American politics.
It's only brought up if you're not part of the club.
Yes, and the media is
because every one of those people, if you dug into them, every one of them,
it'd be worse.
Well, it would be something.
Well, no. I mean, let's talk about it for real. Barack Obama? Are you kidding me? you dig into his history, he was raised by the CIA. First of all, I don't know in what world or universe we start believing the CIA is a good institution, but the CIA had a hand in blowing off John Kennedy's head. That's my opinion. Can't say it as a fact, but I do believe it. The CIA and the security state, the intelligence community in this country, has always commonly been seen as corrupt and dangerous, and even in the black community. Like when I was growing up, it was a foregone conclusion that the CIA or the American government, we just said the American government because when you grow up in a shoddy public school education that doesn't prioritize American civics, you see the whole government as one institution. You call it the man, right? In the neighborhood, you said the man, okay? But we always believed that the government had a hand in killing Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and Fred Hampton. Now, with Fred Hampton's situation, it's on the record that they were involved. That was a raid, and he was killed in the raid. So, I mean, that was first order. But even Malcolm and Martin Luther King, and then we find out later on through declassified information that there were attempts to have Martin Luther King, commit suicide. That there were
he was surveilled.
They were surveilled. There were what do they call? What do you want to call them? There were people who had infiltrated the Nation of Islam when it came to Malcolm and his situation, and had tried to create a bigger divide between Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad that would create the circumstance for violence between the two factions, and the CIA has been on the record and saying, we don't have to assassinate you. We're good at creating the circumstance for the conditions for assassination. So I don't know where people get off just believing these institutions in the first place, but that's what they're trying to do to her. And that's what they're trying to do to me. And it's not just about us personally. And that's the other thing they do. They go, look at the specific details. There's an archetype. The archetype is, if you're not in the club, then anything you do is going to be blown out of proportion. And we're going to look away from the very real, evidence-based history of the American politicians who all you say are the statesman-like politicians.
The statesmen.
Stealing from the American people and killing abroad, for their own political agenda. That's not me or Marissa. We weren't involved in 3 forever wars. Neocon Joe was.
And proud of it.
And he seemed to be very proud of it.
Yes, he does.
But and tell us, I want to know more about, the reason why you decided to run and your platform, because again, people want to, go back and say, oh, well, 10 years ago she was this or that, and we can address some of that in a moment. But why'd you decide to run? Because I'm more interested in what people are about right now.
I think that's super wise, because at the end of the day, each position fulfills certain job duties, and when evaluating people, it's like, can they meet these job criteria? You go to a haircut place because they can cut your hair well. You don't necessarily care about, oh, they drive this car or do they do this. It's, do they do the job well? And I decided to run because I'm a mother and I care about the kind of future that I leave for my son and my future children and within the community. So yeah, I'm either going to do something or I'm going to stop complaining. And I decided to jump in.
But why county commissioner? What was it that drew you to that?
Well, at the time I was having the conversation with a friend, there was a special election and I actually wasn't totally sure what they did at the time. I just know I'm the type of person, throw me in the middle of a pond, a lake, I will swim and I will figure it out. So I knew I could figure it out. And county commissioner really is mostly a financial job. I think the most important thing that they do that's relevant to crime is they fund the justice system and the sheriff's department, which is very important and very relevant, as you've been saying, to a lot of these misadventures that Hennepin County has been on.
Right. And let's go back to your upbringing, because we usually start the interviews like that.
Oh no!
But we're shrouded in controversy all throughout the week here and today. So, but let's go back to the beginning though. Where are you from? Where'd you grow up? How'd you grow up? Family, the whole thing.
Yeah. So I grew up right outside of Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
Homeschool family in the church. My parents are still together 30 plus years later.
Amen.
And we moved here to Minnesota in 2013 for my dad's job.
Okay.
So nothing too crazy, pretty vanilla.
Oh, so you just grew up in Pennsylvania and then moved here?
Yeah. Minnesota's my entire adult life.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
all right.
nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is the wrap, right?
Okay.
You're unfit for the job of being a senator.
Well, I'm unfit because I'm militant, because I actually do shit.
No,
but go ahead.
But I'm just saying, this is going to be the wrap.
Yes.
I'm around all these candidates as an officer of the party.
Yeah.
The ones that are the most fit are the most evil. That's what I've determined.
What do you mean?
Well, I can start naming names. Let's just start out with Rudy Boschwitz, since he's retired and we're in the same clan. 93 years old. Great.
What do you mean the same clan?
We're both Jewish.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and we're in the same clan.
Got it.
So, I have some connectivity with him. He's a very competent person. And when he went to the Senate, he owned a plywood company. What was his expertise to become a senator?
Wow.
He had Plywood, Minnesota. You know why he won? Because he did advertising to sell plywood. So everybody liked him. He showed up in a flannel shirt. You couldn't even tell he was Jewish. He just had an accent. We didn't know who he was. I didn't know he was Jewish myself. Rudy Boschwitz, Plywood, Minnesota. And he was on every night advertising plywood. Every night advertising, I think I'll be a senator. Everybody knew who Rudy was, and he's a senator. He was as qualified to be a senator as Marissa is to be a county commissioner. He had no experience. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. But guess what? He went off to the Senate, served 2 terms, and became the first-class neocon asshole. So, we make this point up about our politicians, like they have these qualifications.
Yes.
Like some come more ready than others. And that's true. There are some that are more ready than others.
Yeah.
Maybe they're like Paul Wellstone was an educated man who would spend his life in political science. At least he knew the history of the country.
Yeah, but I got to push back right there. I get what you're saying, but it's my opinion that the academic institutions in this country are actually, I would say, a net knock on a person's political profile. You can say you were educated, but your education most likely was either sanitized or, in many cases, weaponized against you.
I couldn't agree with you more.
So, again, what would be some of the academic, experience or academic credentials that would really make bode well for politicians? I mean, it's hard to even say right now, because all of the institutions are captured.
History would help.
But not even history. I mean, because the history that they teach.
Everybody is different. You had a historian who had their own search for truth.
But the vast majority of history in American academic institutions is sanitized.
It's sanitized and slanted.
Yes.
And most of them are attorneys.
Mostly towards being anti-Russian, just to be honest.
Most of these candidates are attorneys.
Right.
Okay?
And we know the
So we don't even have to go there.
The word games.
Yeah, the lawyers, the law schools are overwhelmingly liberal.
We just went, when you were there, it was the CD3 convention. We had 4 or 5, 6 candidates to get the endorsement of the Republican Party. I mean, not one of them is qualified, really.
But I wouldn't say they're not qualified.
No, they're not qualified from the extent of Joe Frazier saying you're not fit for the office. If you applied that standard, to him, including him, Mr. IT guy from Wells Fargo, what the hell does he know? Oh, he's an expert in military intelligence. He's so expert in it that before the convention, they didn't take the time to do any intelligence.
Just to Google me.
Yeah, come on. You guys.
Paul, with your pants down in a public figure that's been on Google since I was 16.
Every American citizen needs to take a real deep breath and realize that's the intelligence right there.
Oh, for sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
So not that.
I find it funny. People say if it's all this argument now about reevaluating our relationship with Israel from a military standpoint, and they say, well, Israel relies on us for intelligence. I go, are you people stupid? We rely on Israel for intelligence. It's the other way around. The Mossad is much more competent than the intelligence. I mean, you could say that they are an arm of American intelligence as well, but they're running their own thing. And Mossad, and in my opinion, Mossad is much more competent and much more dangerous even than the CIA. And we rely on them for intelligence, and their intelligence is serious, partly because it's local. And all the intelligence we gather from them is about their region. And you're always going to have a better take on your region than the people who are a pond to hop, skip, and a jump away.
Right, got to know the territory.
You got to know the territory.
But my point is this idea of fitness.
Mm-hmm.
We need citizen politicians. Professional politicians got to stop this. This idea of this professional politician, like Amy Klobuchar, she's a professional politician.
Oh, yeah.
She's a professional.
Professional asshole.
I look at her ex stuff. There's nothing even to criticize. I went to a bake sale. Isn't it wonderful? Oh, I'm here with these ill people. Isn't that wonderful? This woman is not going to take a position on anything because she's such a good politician, right?
Absolutely.
We don't need that.
Yes,
we
I
need
agree.
people engaged. And of course, for her party, she came out and said that Joe Biden was sharp as a tack, right?
Yep.
I mean, and they're doing that right now.
As good as ever.
Our governor just came back and said they met with him. In other words, the American public, don't believe your lying eyes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Don't believe it.
Yes.
So
But this young lady here, Marissa, she's unfit to be county commissioner because, somebody
because she's a young lady.
Well, yeah, but even more so because she was willing to take action, because she didn't rely on the system, because she believes in a certain amount of self-governance. The police aren't going to help me. I'm going down to PetSmart. I'm going to spend $33, and I'm going to get a tarantula. I got to say that is a pretty wild. I got to say, honestly, wouldn't have been my choice. But again, I'm a 6'8", 270-pound man. How I would deal with things would be different than a young woman would.
Yeah.
But again,
Okay, so I got to get back to.
Well, I like before we move on,
Go
I
ahead.
think your point, we're trying to figure out what makes someone qualified. And it's people who can think, people who can speak, who aren't afraid to take action and sometimes maybe be wrong. But we learn through trying and being honest about where we're at. And when they're just like a whitewashed figure, kind of like Amy Klobuchar, right? This Mother Mary, there's always two sides to everything. So what are we not seeing? And it's some of these shady things that you guys have been mentioning.
Well, with Amy, it's she's everything pro-war, but even more so than that, she is a professional politician, and that's kind of an indictment in of itself. If you just kind of middle of the road, if there's no controversy around you, I don't like you. I'm like Joey Diaz. I don't like people who don't got some shit wrong with them. I just don't. Honestly, because it doesn't resonate with me.
It's not real.
Where I come from, people have issues. Where I come from, people have problems. Where I come from, people have had to go all the way to the bottom and work their way back out and build their life back up, maybe multiple times in one lifetime, in one short lifetime, just by the time that they're 25. I experienced it. I live with that. Those are my friends. Those are the people that you and I have to convince in CD5 and Minnesota Republicans have to convince in CD4 to win a statewide election. And for some reason, they don't even want to go to rally at the Fed on the American holiday that celebrates independence after an entire month of pride celebrations. And hey, if the LGBTQ wants to celebrate their politics and their activism and their identity, this is America. That's what's beautiful about it. The problem isn't the LGBTQ celebrating. The problem is the Republicans, like Sean Holster, being afraid to even hold a rally on July 4th.
Hey, would you give me a minute to get into this philosophically?
Okay.
Play the Professor Penn role for a
Okay.
second.
All right.
Because this thing you just talked about is the essence of everything. The Fed is not a new invention. We had a state bank that Hamilton started called the Federalists. At the beginning of the country, there was two parties. One were the Federalists. The other one was called the Democrat Republicans. There was Hamilton and Jefferson. They were at odds with each other. And it's good to talk about this on July 4th because it's really, we're not fighting about things that are new. We're fighting about things that have been here since the beginning. Hamilton wanted this central bank, and he was accused of starting an aristocracy, of starting an elite group of a moneyed class of people that had an advantage over the populace. The whole point of the country, republicanism, is not to do that. The whole point is anti-corruption, anti-centralization of power. It's about power in the people. It's why our flag has stars and stripes representing the people, and the British flag that we rebelled from has a cross that signifies the divine right of the king that ruled over us. So this thing, what you're saying about the Pride Week previously, what the Democrat liberal order has done is it swapped out social liberalism for the political liberalism of republicanism. And we need to understand as American citizens that we're being sold a completely new ideology that has nothing to do with the Constitution, why we are Americans. That's why there's all this conflict. It's an overthrow. And then when I'm told that I can't walk on my own streets peacefully, then I'm supposed to be afraid of the social liberals. And if they get mad, it's my fault.
Yeah.
Hey, we've lost. These people who are leading our party in this direction, they've lost. I think you had didn't CD3 put out some kind of statement?
Yeah.
What was that? Were you endorsed, or what was the background on that?
So the county commissioner is nonpartisan, but candidates do tend to pick sides, right? Just naturally. And so you can be recommended, and I was recommended, and I'm not going to throw out any names, but people know who they are. There's certain people who don't actually want to win, and that's why we need people with kahunas who actually want to win and will do the action that's required towards that end. So, yeah, they've withdrawn their support, but, whatever.
Because it's not a stretch for you, even as somebody who's Republican-leaning, to get a broad base of support there in the Edina area. I mean, is the Westerns, Edina typically pretty Republican, I would say.
Pretty blue. It changed.
It's changed. It's changed tremendously.
But I will say my neighbors even are feeling the financial issue, which county commissioner, and taxes, property taxes. Everybody's feeling it.
Right.
People say, all these Edina cake eaters. Well, not everybody, right? It's one of these overgeneralizations.
They are the cake eaters. For those of you who don't know, the Edina High School mascot used to be the cake eaters, right?
An actual piece of cake was the mascot?
No. I think they used to be called the cake eaters back in the day.
Because you got to own it. You got to own
now
insults.
they changed to, they have a new mascot. But hold on, I'm going to look it up for you. I think they just...
More politically correct they had to go. People were too offended.
But it's very interesting that Edina has gone from red to blue, which is the impact of the social liberalism, the impact of the educational system over just a couple of generations. But you know why it was easy to take that over? Is because it was all financially driven.
Yes.
This group of people were not ever really Republicans. Real Republicanism is a philosophy. It's a way of life. It's a way of thinking. They just wanted low taxes and low regulation because they wanted to be better materially rewarded as American citizens than their fellow citizens. That makes them Marxists. I'm going to just say from my perspective, if you're asking for a tax break so as you can make more money, keep more money, you're dependent on the government to take care of you, no different than the very people that those tax break people are maligning, which are the people that are on public assistance.
Okay,
that's a very interesting perspective.
I don't mean to
go ahead.
Let's hear it.
I don't think their mascot was ever the cake eaters, but there is a lot of Edina sports sporting events that are, like the 2024 Boys Cake Eater Classic. So the Edina sports community or the Edina community has embraced.
Let them eat cake from Marie Antoinette.
Yes,
isn't that great? Let them eat cake.
Yeah, I think that is what they're saying it comes from. Is that they were kind of high class. Edina's always been kind of high class, I guess. I'm not familiar with it. I grew, what's funny about it? I went to kindergarten in Edina.
Really?
Because my mom was an esthetician at Spelon Montage, which is on 50th in France.
Ah.
So I actually, she had me go to kindergarten right down the street from her from her job, and I went to a school called Fulton. I don't think Fulton is still there, but it's closed. It changed the name. But I went to kindergarten and after school program right there in Edina. So I guess I'm kind of an Edina kid myself in some ways.
You got some cake somewhere over there.
I got some, yeah. Well, but I didn't really notice it. And then, my grandfather, he had a girlfriend when I was growing up. It's a girlfriend. It's funny to say your grandpa had a girlfriend, but he did. He had a girlfriend, and she lived in that Edina area. And he lived, he worked in Richfield. So I'm very familiar with that Edina area growing up. But I never seen the people as being real snooty or mean or rude or anything like that. But as a kid, I guess you're not paying attention to the cues.
Well, this is a real issue now, because now we're getting into the heart of the snooty and the rude. Mm-hmm. Because I'm getting to see the party and how the party's functioning. I've watched a little bit around you, but I'm more focused on Royce. But I watched what happened to you. And the same thing really is happened to me too. There's an attitude. There's an attitude. I don't know where this attitude comes from. These people actually think they're better. They actually do. They actually think that they
It's funny.
Well, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, they think they're above us.
And one of the
I'm not talking about the people of Edina. I'm talking about our permanent political elite.
Just generally speaking,
right.
Here's one of the ways it comes up. Oh, could you please ask Royce to stop swearing? We just can't vote for him if he swears.
Fuck you. No, I'm serious. So you get the government you deserve, right?
Well, that's the same thing.
If you won't vote for a man who will swear or use profanity, but you'll vote for somebody who will steal your money and send your daughters and sons to die on a Russian battlefield.
Good work.
Then you
deserve it.
You deserve it.
You deserve it.
You actually, and guess what? The key for politicians and leaders, American leaders of the next chapter of this nation, is to not be discouraged by the people's choices. That is what I was going back to my original statement about the socialism that has seeped into American culture. We as politicians, as candidates, are so wounded, at a deep level. We're so wounded by what the people choose, as if the people don't choose, if they don't like me, I don't know how I'm ever going to survive. My ego and pride won't allow me to move forward in life. I'm 6'8". I'm 6'8", 270 pounds. I got a 36 waist. My eyes are green. Do you think my self-image is really going to be broken if American citizens who wouldn't know the geographical pivot of history from old MacDonald had a farm? You think my ego is going to be wounded if they don't choose to vote for me because I used a little bit of profanity to try and express how dire the situation is? That doesn't bother me a single bit. I mean, honestly, if I wake up on August 14th and the Minnesota Republicans chose a neocon like Joe Frazier, who puts he, him pronouns in his LinkedIn bio to try and virtue signal to all of his other,
one of the most corrupt banks,
all
in the
of his
history
other
of the country.
professional peers, what that doesn't say anything about me. It really doesn't. It says something about what the people want, but we've inverted that.
Well, that's what we're talking about. But that's exactly what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
We have to get to the people and say, come on, look at the outcome of the he, him politicians.
Yeah.
Look at this outcome.
Yes.
And see this as the water's creeping up now. See, this is when we get into the cake eaters in Edina. See over here where Professor Penn?
Hey, don't be going at I don't like this Edina slander.
Great.
I got a special place in my heart for the Edina community.
Well, how about Mini Trista?
They probably don't like me. They probably think I'm batshit crazy.
No,
there in
but I'm
Edina,
just
but I
saying,
like the people in Edina.
The
They're
water
nice.
is creeping up, okay?
Yes.
When you have the kind of inflation, I saw a thing on X where someone had they found a receipt from one of the local grocery stores in their purse from 2017, and they bought the exact same items again and posted both those receipts. Mm-hmm. Food inflation is crazy. This is going to get everybody. So that water's creeping up now. Yeah. So the people that are up here at the top of the mountain, nothing changed for them. They're still going out for ribeye steaks and driving their cars and taking their trips.
Like Steve Bannon said, they had the best 10-year run in history.
They had the best 10-year run in history. Right. And they're still running because the Fed is still pumping that gas in the balloon.
Right into their pockets.
Right into their pockets.
Because as long as they're okay, everybody else has something to look up at.
And I hear this all the time. Oh, my 401. They even said it on Morning Joe Scarborough.
The country's great. Look at your 401k.
Look at your 401k.
God. If Joe Scarborough tells you your 401k,
run for the exit.
Oh boy,
run for the exit.
We got problems. We got problems.
You should, before you go to the next time, you should. You talk a lot about asking the Uber drivers. Ask the Uber drivers if they've been invested in the market, because if they had, it's time to run.
No, the Uber drivers are invested in themselves. The Somali community, they are very good group they are very good with group economics. They reinvest money. They work multiple jobs. There's always an Uber driver. He's got an earpiece. He's doing some call center job, as well. And our faith ideology and theology is certainly not the same, although we do come from the Abrahamic faith. But the thing that you can say about them is they have a profound sense of ethno-identity. They have a profound sense of culture.
And of working hard.
And they are not willing to give that culture. I mean, look at the Minneapolis Republic. Again, I don't know how else to say it, but you're afraid to protest on July 4th. But Ilhan Omar is not afraid to bring, the Somalian delegation together and say, Ilhan Omar is fighting for the interests of Somalia first. So she can say Somalia first, but I can't say American first. And then on top of it, not only do you allow that to happen, on top of it, I can't say fuck off either.
There's a trend I'm seeing. It's we need people who have the courage to be disliked. And just like you were saying on August, if it shakes out, great. If not, your life's going to be good and you're not controlled by what anybody else does. And that takes a real like fortitude of character to be that kind of person. And if you're not that kind of person in office, you're at the whims of the loudest yeller or the one who's the biggest intimidator. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how you feel about your race still, given everything that's going on?
Yeah. I mean, I'm in it. You know, I'm not going to be bullied or back down. It's like, okay, we're going to move forward. And the issues is county commissioner addresses crime through funding the justice system. They play a role in that. And it's also a financial allocation job. And we need to spend wisely. I have some business experience. And so it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at budgets and optimize things. I've sat down and I've looked through all 3 sections of the budget. And you just figure out, you troubleshoot, and one at a time, you just make improvements.
Well, and one thing I'll say, first time we came across each other's adversaries a little bit on social media. That's the backstory here. Is me and Marissa were kind of at each other's.
You towed the line though with me. You didn't.
Did I?
You didn't call me a cuck. So I was like, wow, he must actually really like me. He just doesn't know it yet.
That's funny. Well, you know, that's funny. That's funny. Well, number one, you know, I have a sense of, holding back when I interact with women anyway, just in general. It's just a manly thing. It's, you know, and I do make special distinction there because, you know, you are running and I do see that you're in Republican circles. So I give you a certain grace and clemency that I maybe wouldn't give other women online who, for example, have the syringe and the Ukraine flag and the pride flag in their bio, right? Is for them, I'd probably just say fuck off right away because I know where they're coming from. But with you, and then I actually went and saw you talk a little bit, and I was like, the one thing I got to say is she's articulate and she's smart, you know, and those things are a lost quality in American politics. I think just that alone. I mean, people who are articulate, who are smart, intelligent, and articulate is becoming a lost quality. I mean, when I listen to the Congress or the Senate and I just listen to the way they talk, it may be, they may say all the right things. There's no real charisma to it. It doesn't seem genuine and authentic. And I think one of the things about and this is partly what they don't like about Donald Trump, is Donald Trump is very charismatic. He's very charismatic because he's very authentic. And people are drawn to authenticity.
Yes.
Right? And all of these kind of, and this is why Joe Frazier, I don't know if you were at the state convention. Were you at the state convention?
I wasn't, but I've bumped into him. And it's like, this is going to sound super rude. It's almost like a robot.
Right.
Was my impression. It's like you don't feel a soul. Yeah.
Well, they say that when
that's a pretty intense indictment.
Well, yeah.
I didn't feel a soul. I mean, that's weird.
When you, in all fairness to him, and no, I'm a fair guy. I'm just a fair guy. Even my worst enemies or opponents, I'm a fair guy.
Yeah.
In all fairness to them, part of what the military and the Navy does is strip your soul. They strip your personality so that they can build you back up. Mm. And their rationale, right, is that they're stripping all of the weaknesses of you to build you back up into a machine. Yes. A machine that can survive. And I get that. And we need that. I'm not saying that now we're building our soldiers up to be, trans queer conscious too. So that's that's a weird paradox. And you're paying for transitions. That's certainly an odd twist on things. But my point about Joe is I get why he has that soulless sort of robotic demeanor. I really do. Yeah. The question is, who would actually vote for that?
I don't know. In my spirit, like a woman's intuition, I was like, where is when you feel like you can actually genuinely connect and you might not agree with everything someone says, but you at least feel their heart in it. It's like, where is that? Yeah. That was weird for me.
Yeah. And what I meant about it is just, he had trouble articulating anything. He got up there and he spoke. First of all, Kendall Qualls spoke for him for about 5 minutes at the convention. Then he played a video of Amy Klobuchar talking, and then him talking about the video while he was standing there. And then he got up and yelled for another minute and 30 seconds. And I'm in the back and I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to lose this endorsement.
That's what you were thinking.
I was thinking that day. The reason I was thinking is because in my head, I'm going, the only way what I'm listening to could possibly be paired with this endorsement process is if the fix is in. I mean, I can't imagine any other scenario of how I'm listening to this guy stand up there and, I mean, who is this guy and how is it that he and I are even on the same playing field? I'm not saying I'm above him, but just my understanding of the issues and ability to articulate it in a genuine way. I mean, you saw my convention speech. A million people have seen my convention speech, and I stand behind every single thing I said during that 8 minutes because it's really what I believe.
Well, that was the big takeaway was that when I talked to party insiders afterwards, they said you were genuine. And that's what, you are genuine.
I think so.
Okay, so...
So genuine, I don't mind saying fuck off.
But my point is, the professional politician sets you apart. And then I ask myself, who are these people
that put him up to it?
And then voting for him. I mean, because he's...
Yeah, because 300 people did still vote for him out of 1,200.
But, you know, when you say soul, that's what ran through my mind because I'm a little goofy myself. I thought, well, let's burn him at the stake and see if he has a soul. But no, I'm just joking.
The ghost flies up.
I don't even know if you can joke like that.
No, but probably not. But that's what they did, you know, at
Back
the Salem
day.
witch trials.
Right.
If they scream when we burn them, they must be human beings. Because
an untold story about the Salem witch trials, too, is that there were many, many people who had just become involved in a recent rise of occultism. So it wasn't right to burn them at the stake, but they make it seem like the women who were accused were completely innocent. I mean, that's a twist on the story. A lot of women dealing in the occult. I don't think we should burn them at the stake, just like now. I mean, I think Satanism, like I said before about the LGBTQ, if you guys want to build your own schools, if you want to build a satanic temple, I don't think it's a good thing for the country. I don't think it's a good thing for our communities, but it is America, and you do have a right to believe in whatever you want. If it's the complete opposite of our Judeo-Christian values, founded about, hey, you know, then we got to do a better job of ministering the gospel. It's not for the government to say, you can't do that. No. We Christians got to do a better job of demonstrating the lack of value in that.
We citizens have to do a better job of getting involved in politics.
For sure.
I mean, that's really it. Like, for example, let the podcast not go by. The primary, early voting has already begun.
Yes.
The primary is August 13th.
Yes.
Please, Minnesota citizens, or whatever state you're in, citizens don't participate in primary elections. They just don't. That means that we really don't get a good understanding of what the citizens really want. So if the citizens have what Marissa calls a soulless candidate, and that other people say is a very real and sincere candidate, could we actually go to the polls, American citizens in Minnesota, and vote for the real as opposed to the unreal?
Yeah.
Because we're at a moment in American history where this unreal thing, it's getting us out there about as far as we can go. I had this,
further than we can go.
Well, I had this
Can't
mentor.
go any further.
I have this mentor of mine. I've spoken about him. He used to say, "Mr. Penn, you can go as far as you want to from that forest, but when you get far enough, it's snapping your ass right back." And we're right at that point where that tether cord is strung out, and it's going to snap us all back to a life. So we have two choices. We can steward a change as American citizens, take the power away from people that don't care about us, because what they know is when we're out killing each other to survive, they'll be living in the Golden Palace because they're in power. They're reducing us to a less and less human existence, while their existence is going to almost a super normal kind of a status.
Right.
So they don't care what happens to me and my kids. Well, excuse me, fuck them. There's way more of us than there is of them. We just don't get involved.
Right, we're not involved.
And once we get involved, once we as American citizens at least go to the polls, let alone get involved in the party, which please get involved in your party, in an election cycle or two, we can set the country back into a politics that's republicanism. I don't mean the Republican Party. You can be a Democrat and believe in republicanism.
Right.
You can.
Of course.
Free speech, freedom of assembly, due process. anti-corruption. That was the key idea.
Anti-oligarchy
That was the key idea of republicanism. It
Right.
was a repudiation of kingship.
of king, divine
Yeah.
right of kings,
Right. Do
Right.
we want to?
monarchy.
Are we going to set up another monarchy of tech overlords and oligarchs and billionaires? What are we doing to ourselves here? And how are we doing it? They're making us hate each other, hate ourselves. We get these assholes like Dustin Gragey projecting his self-hatred out into the world. I'm not going to play into it. I just want to find the American citizens
I like it.
that love the country
I
enough to
love it.
get
I love
involved.
playing into it. I love calling a cuck out when I see one. And you know, Dustin Grage, it's a great example. I didn't even know what you told me earlier today, where you asked him why he wasn't at the convention to cast his vote as a member of the Republican Party.
He had family issues. Family issues. He had family issues. He told me he had family issues. I don't remember what they were.
Okay.
But whatever they were, I'm going to juxtapose it with my own decision.
Okay.
State Central Committee. I had COVID.
My son was on his deathbed.
Right. I mean, what do you think the founding fathers of the country did when they were sick? You think they stayed home and said, "Oh, I'm sick"? They either were at the deal or they were dead.
Right.
That's it.
But that's American citizen. And that's just being real. And again, I want to come back to and you know, this cloud of controversy includes this claim, you know, that you were a escort back in the day, you know, and I just want to say, you know, it's again, you know, people are so quick to cast a stone. Do I agree with the lifestyle? No. But who am I to say? I got my own history of things that people, certainly in my own Christian faith, are a shortcoming, right? Are me falling short. Why are people are more interested in that than they are what you believe in now and what you're willing to do
Or
right now?
in redemption. They're more interested in that
They have
than they
no belief in redemption.
because they don't believe in God.
That is a telltale sign
Isn't it?
of a neocon rhino atheist.
Right.
They don't believe in redemption, but they do wrap themselves in Christianity.
Well, because that'll,
And they
that'll
say,
sell you some
oh,
weapons.
Marissa's not fit. You know, she used to work as an escort or whatever the case may be. And I just want to say that, number one, Jesus Christ walked with women who worked as prostitutes. He did. So for you to be a Christian and not acknowledge that part of the scripture, you're being dishonest on face value. And I know many of women from the neighborhood that have had to do certain things that they wouldn't have wanted to do for economic purposes. And you made a great point. You said we're all professional.
Yeah. What, I forget what I said.
I think you
Politicians.
said, no, I
which
think you said we're all professional whores.
Yeah. I mean, that's politics. So who
Yes.
better than the alleged professional whore to run this, and gold digger, because Hennepin County needs some freaking gold.
Yes.
So let's run it.
yes.
You gotta look at the positives in anything.
Well,
And the other
go
thing you
ahead.
were saying, it's a shaming, right? An
Yes.
attempt to shame and push women down. Where on the flip side, you know who they're not shaming and putting down? Women who waste their time, all of their youth, and don't even have a stable family at the end, and who allow themselves to be exploited. But yet they want to shame women who have any sort of socioeconomic standard, whether it's an official.
explain that. No, go into
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Go
Well,
flush that out for us, because
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, you know, I mean,
go ahead.
women who say that I want a man who will provide and protect traditional masculine values,
Yeah.
who want to be perhaps stay-at-home moms, who want to have the time and energy to look beautiful, to be happy, to be fun, right? To be that homemaker, right?
Right.
Like my grandma, my mom. That's shamed. And I think people are allowing themselves to be shamed. And women, I think women should do what they want to do.
Well, yes. I mean, there certainly is a unique double standard. I mean, there just is. I mean, and even and you make a good point. It's one of those subtle cultural norms that we don't like to talk about. But in a country and a culture that's as radical materialist as ours is, all romantic pursuits and sexual transactions, I mean, all romantic pursuits and sexual interactions tend to have a transactional basis.
And everyone,
I mean, that's just kind of the.
Well, it couldn't be about love at the beginning, but if it don't make it, it's all about the money at the
Well,
divorce.
the divorce courts show us that.
That's
yeah,
right.
for sure.
Yeah,
but-
yeah. And people grow in love. Women grow in love when we're cared for, we're nurtured. And women, like, our heart is to care and nurture with our children. And so I think, you know, from a family perspective, non-business, it's wise for women to have a standard because this is the future that they're passing on to their children. And why would you not have a high standard? Why would you be selfish and say, oh, I'll just settle for less? Because my kids deserve less. My future deserves less. No, hold a high standard.
So do you mean a sexual standard? I mean, do you mean like a transact? Are you saying that the entry for men to have romantic relationships with women, the bar is set way too low from the women's vantage, from the women's standpoint?
I think women's standards, I mean, the whole sexual revolution have just fallen apart. They haven't really empowered women because when we have children, it's very vulnerable. And so we need to protect ourselves by protecting like who we give access to our time, energy, and bodies. That's how we protect ourselves with our boundaries, by saying no. And so by shaming women for saying no, well, no wonder women are having such a hard time in politics. They're scared. And they feel like this is collective, right? There's all these channels out there laughing about taking advantage of women and doing all these things. So women are mad. And we even feel it in politics. So we're kind of feeling a snap back, and perhaps some of these extreme gold digger things and over the top standards are finding again that normal center of good family values with a strong masculine and a nurturing feminine and happy kids, happy families, stable units.
So give me, you gotta help me here. Give me an example of what you mean. So you're saying like that women pursuing guys who have their stuff together or more financially secure or have a good professional life shouldn't be something that's shamed, right? We traditionally try and call women who are looking for men that are well off or financially stable, we typically kind of shame them as being gold diggers. But you're saying it's right for women to want men who are successful and secure and well off and things like that.
Well, men want the most beautiful women, and we don't shame them.
For sure.
So why can't women have standards too?
For sure. Yeah.
It's expensive to look good. Your time, your energy, everything. So just from a common sense perspective, well, I mean, otherwise you're scamming yourself.
Explain it.
You're spending all your time, energy, everything. You got to, like, even the Bible talks about being equally yoked. So
I think what Marissa's saying is you've put all this time into yourself, and then you
for no benefit.
for no right.
It's like being a bodyguard for the whole world and paying to do it.
yeah,
that's
yeah.
It's a microcosm of the
Men wouldn't
American
do it.
military-industrial complex,
That's a very-
which is a whore, by the way.
That's a very interesting concept.
We all horse.
We stumbled into that
We
back.
stumbled into that one, didn't we?
Wow.
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 Well, that just goes right into. We could go all the way down this rabbit hole.
I do gotta say on behalf of men, though. I will say this on behalf of men.
You guys look a little nervous right now.
No. We're just talking. We interview anybody we want to, and we talk about anything we want to. And it's good to hear a woman's perspective because we're kind of considered misogynist on this podcast.
What?
Oh yeah, I'm considered a misogynist, full blown.
You're kidding.
Well, because I called Barack Obama a cunt, and obviously the word cunt means you're a misogynist by default. Because no man who has any respect for women would ever use the word, no matter who he's talking about. I mean, I think Satan is a cunt. Hopefully the Christians would agree. You like that? You see what I did there? Okay. But I will say on behalf of men, though, men will date women who have nothing. That is true.
Ugly women who have nothing?
Yes, maybe some guys.
But what are they getting then? There's always
the question.
something.
Well, anytime you talk about the tough thing about the tough thing about physical appearance is this. It's a two-way street. So when you say guys will date ugly women, the ugly is relative to how relatively attractive they are in the sexual marketplace.
You mean how rich he is? Believe.
We better get our economy together. We're going to have a hard sell. Better get that debt under control.
My point is
The howdy dudes. Howdy get her, right?
Well, I think there is and you could kind of look at the Andrew Tate kind of phenomenon and people who are trying to reestablish, normalcy around masculinity, around economics. And my problem with it is, and I'm gonna be totally transparent with you. My problem with it is the radical materialism at bottom is always going to lead to a sort of corruptibility. Not that you can't be poor and be corruptible, or that you can't be poor and be wicked or evil, because surely you can be. That's another kind of Marxist revolutionary academic idea that the poor are somehow automatically righteous. I'm like, dude, I come from a poor neighborhood. That's retarded. I don't even know where you're going with that. I mean, I know plenty of people who are poor, who are batshit crazy and psychopathic. I don't trust them, would never turn my back on them because they're degenerates and they're drug addicts, or they're just absolutely psychopath, right? So I don't buy that either. But I will say that money and materialism tends to be a very potent, corruptible force. And so I don't like men or women. My problem with the Andrew Tate thing is, you solve your problems by getting money or having money. It's just, that is one of the heralds of corruption in politics, is even our elections, we run based on how much money you raise.
Actually, yes, I totally agree with
right?
this.
So,
yes.
but if you're going to be a slave to money,
Yes.
whether it be professionally, politically, or romantically, you're just to the highest bidder. Well, the highest bidder isn't always going to be righteous. The highest bidder is sometimes going to be fucked up. And matter of fact, if you look at the track of our country and you think about who it is that has the wealth and the money, typically, if you trend towards the people who have wealth and money, if you are liked by the people who have a lot of wealth and money, you're usually dealing with a group of people who were instrumental in destroying the country. Which is why we were at the Fed, right? It's like if you're a candidate, and they just had a WikiLeaks cable that came out a couple of days ago, it surfaced. Can't verify if it's authentic or not, but the claim was that Citigroup Bank helped choose the cabinet for Barack Obama in 2008.
Wouldn't be shocking.
Not shocking at all. But my point is, if you appeal to bankers, if you appeal to wealth and money, that's almost an indictment of your character. And it's not the same for women in sexual, romantic pursuits, I don't think, because every man naturally wants a beautiful woman. There's something more biological about that.
Yes.
But it is kind of trending the same way, in my opinion, where if a guy, let's say, is okay with the idea that he would have to buy your loyalty, it kind of cuts against the natural order of men and women and the idea of love, monogamy, let's say, because then it's imagine you saying, I'm going to be monogamous, but you're here because I can pay. Well, if it's pay as you go, I can pay for whatever. As long as I'm paying for you, I'll pay for whatever I want. And you had a fair argument there, right?
I mean, that's how you were talking about these bankers. That's how men have been running things.
Okay, explain.
That's what they're doing, exactly as you're describing. And now women are we couldn't even get mortgages until the early 1970s.
Right.
So there was no sort of autonomy or options. And the last 40 years, women have created options. And so society is, in a general way, figuring out where do we go from here?
We're trying to figure it out.
Well, if women couldn't get a place to live on their own, they don't have any choice to leave. So to your point, right, there's the cash someone has, and then there's also their character. And there's plenty of people with lots of cash who do not have character that I wouldn't think women should deal with them.
Where are you at? Where are you falling on this?
Yeah, I'd love to. You're a businessman.
I'm thinking about, as a businessman, I will tell you that I have a young stepson, and he's 15 years old. Not even 15. He'll be 15 in September. And he has a very good relationship with Mrs. Professor Penn. Kid's cool. And he's talented. And I looked at...
Bring this mic a little closer, please.
I looked at Mrs. Professor Penn about, 3 months ago. I said, I think this kid's getting ready to be a man because I've taken him to start training him. And I've been taking him to the club with me. And when I see a kid train like this, I know he's got something on his mind besides oatmeal. There's something's on this kid's mind because he's training hard. And all of a sudden, a girl calls him. Like one day he's playing video games like 10 hours a day. And this girl, because she has autonomy and choices and she's liberated, raised by a liberated mother, possibly, I don't know. She called him, and they went out on a date. And then they went out on another date. This is like 2 weeks now. I looked at him last night and I said, man, are you thinking you might spend the rest of your life with this girl? He shakes. Yes.
Aw.
So I'm telling you.
Aw.
And you know what? He's totally in love with this girl.
We're not gonna discourage.
The puppy love.
The young-
I'm just
the
saying.
young
No, but
man.
wait a second. And
Very
I
possible.
and I
if he
met-
chooses it.
and I met the girl. A 10. She's a 10. No, I probably can't say this because I'm old, but she's about 15 years old.
Yeah.
This girl is
We're
beautiful.
yeah.
She's beautiful. Just beautiful. These two kids are
You're
playing
saying he's
it.
punching above his weight.
I'm saying that they're in love without any of this financial or any of these other considerations.
Yes. Okay.
So there's something that we have become so distanced from in our
Yeah.
because I remember it's pretty crusty. I got to work hard to
Right.
dredge it out of
Right,
there.
right.
But I was there,
Yeah.
and so there's something that's very beautiful that we have in our social liberalism, which replaced political liberalism, a whole new set of values about social liberalism, a recasting of what freedom is into personal freedoms, mostly in a sexual sense. We might have lost something. And there's something there that probably was preserved for hundreds and hundreds and thousands of years, knowing that it almost always didn't work out, but it did sometimes work. As you said, he might spend the rest of his life
It's possible.
with that woman.
Yeah.
And they're so beautifully in love. He's so purely in love with this girl. It's kind of stunning. It's really kind of stunning.
But
So-
that life is going to have challenges, and you need, right? It's beautiful puppy love, right now in this little bubble. But when challenges come up, a woman wants a man who's going to like go to battle for her. And so that's where some of this stuff comes in, and where it connects back to politics is we need leaders who are not afraid of being the bad guy, who are able to go to battle. And I think women are ready for that now. So it's all, everything socially is connected.
Yes, but here is the huge indictment of the modern day woman. The modern day woman and the feminist movement have, in many ways, neutered the mass majority of men, modern men. And so when it's somewhat of a sexual racket when women say, we want men to be stronger, but the prevailing feminist movement has gone out of its way to make sure that the average pick of a man is typically going to yield a man who's pretty weak and is willing to fall in line and kind of be led and herded and is a sort of sheep, right? I mean,
So how do we correct it then?
Well, I think women, and this is going to sound really controversial, but I think from a political standpoint, and this is like macro politics, that the feminist movement has to step off of center so that men can retrain a vast majority of men to be men. And then it's perfectly useful or makes sense for women to say, hey, if you're not a strong man, then I don't want nothing to do with you, right? That makes perfect sense. Then it's fair. But when you train up and teach young men to even become young women, I mean, really, we're starting to train young men to become young women.
Well, masculinity is toxic.
It's toxic. And so when you do that and then you say, but I want a man that's, I'm not saying you specifically, I'm saying
Right.
women in general. They go, and I see this even in the liberal women cohort online. They go, well, men aren't acting like men anymore. Well, that's because you trained, first of all, you had a kid. You took them away from their father. You trained him up to think like a woman. He thinks like a woman. And then now the next woman of the next generation has your son to pick from. And you want her to treat him like a man that he's not. And now you're going to complain and say, well, there are no good men. And that is the real indictment, I think, of the feminist movement.
And
Is
the men.
the expectation from the feminist movement is that there are a lot of these men that they're seeking. There are not a lot of them. And this is the argument that has grown about polygamy and the failure, let's say, of monogamy and the role that American institutions, academic institutions, but also the courts, divorce courts and whatnot have played in the destruction of American culture is like, well, you all want to live in this monogamous culture, but you want these very unique men. You know, you want them, and you ask the average woman what kind of man she wants. She says she wants a guy who's tall, who's good looking, charming, charismatic, a people person, can do things on his own,
Makes money.
has a lot of money, is very good sexually, and we know there's a huge epidemic of erectile dysfunction, even whether that's from
Bamboozle.
Huh?
Bamboozle. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. There's a serious erectile dysfunction problem in
Really?
the male population. Absolutely. Yeah. And so, but we want a man that checks all these boxes, but then you think you get them all to yourself? Really? I mean, every other woman wants that man. I mean, you've siphoned your man into, you've siphoned the modern man into a shooting gallery of women pursuants. And then you go, well, don't look her way when we're out to dinner. You got wandering eyes. We got this real jealousy culture with it too. It's like, in what world? I mean, it's kind of woman-on-woman violence. If you think that you want this particular man, this very unique man, but you get them all to yourself. And I get it. Us as Christians, we believe in this monogamous culture. But what I'm saying is, what we've built in government, what we've built with our government and with our politics, is an anti-Christian edifice that promotes either monogamy or infidelity, because the expectations don't match up with the market. It's like, and this is what I was saying about men. Men, because of our sexual nature, we will settle for a woman who we don't think deserves us. And a lot of us men are just as narcissistic as women in our
You guys will settle for a woman you feel you're too good for?
For sexual purposes.
Convenience.
Absolutely.
For the sweepers. They're called sweepers, not keepers. They're sweepers. You guys, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Come on. Exactly how it sounds. The sweeper.
Okay.
There's a sweeper. You don't want anybody to know. Then there's the sleepers.
Mm-hmm.
Who's this? The home
And then
math
there's
guy.
the keepers.
And then there's the keepers. Yes.
Okay, I'm
But
not
the
familiar with that lexicon.
The sweepers, it's like, we did some things, but don't tell anybody.
But you do realize that there are a good number of men that, in the absence of any other options, will stay with that woman who most would consider a sweeper. He'll end up staying with her out of sexual convenience. Women will completely close themselves off sexually.
And move on.
They will close themselves off to uphold the preservation of what they believe their standards should be based on material expectations.
Well, their own personal safety, because diapers cost money.
True.
It costs time if you have to hire a nanny and you have to work. I mean, it's hard to feel in love with anybody if you're slaving away all day and then you come home, you cook, you clean, you make sure he's serviced Haktua, right? I mean, like, come on. That's like being a slave.
Right.
You're not going to feel in love. That happy bubble is just going to crumble and you're going to wish, where were those days? So, that's why we need some strong leadership, and it's a lot of it.
Existential issues here now, aren't we?
We're going off on the rabbit trail here.
But it's good though, because me and Marissa kind of had this, this front-facing sort of, clash of ideas, the man versus the woman perspective on some of these political issues. And I get what you're saying.
But it's in politics. And people don't necessarily realize how connected it is. But the way that women vote has a lot to do with frustrations over these things. And the Republican Party, when the polls come out, women are going for Biden or the Democratic one. And so we want to, make women feel safe and draw them in, because there's great guys.
I agree.
Great things that we have to offer.
Oh, I completely agree. I've been saying since I first came on the scene that the failure of the crisis of femininity is a failure of masculinity. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying it's all women's fault. But what I am saying is that there's a certain predatory group of men.
Yes, they're ruining it for everyone, actually.
Yes, they are. Yes. They are trying to coerce and incentivize women to tip the scales politically so they can soften all the other men so that it will continue to go. What you're saying, what makes different than what you're saying and what the mainstream politics are saying, you're hoping that there's some boomerang. You're saying that what you're acting upon is out of pursuit of or hopes that the culture will shift back to a place where men are more reliable and dominant and healthy and secure and whatnot. You're hoping that it goes back there. What I'm saying is there are these men that are very brilliant political strategists who are preying upon women's hope that they can, let's say, provide the counterweight to what men have failed at, that would love nothing more than for the the scales to continue to tip in the direction of women and lose all sense of masculinity whatsoever. And that's why, the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is obvious. Donald Trump is an atypical type A, masculine, sort of alpha dominant personality. And Joe Biden's kind of like this, feeble, run of the mill, kind of, do what he's told, toe the line, bend to any type of social pressure. And it is a great microcosm of the duality of masculinity in American society, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And where women are voting for Joe Biden, I'm not so sure it's the Donald Trumps of the world aren't listening to women's grievances, and Joe Biden is. I think Joe Biden's using women's.
He's presenting as if he is. Yes.
Because again, what if you're a single woman, if you're a single black mother, let's say, inflation is killing you first.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're a single woman like you, young, and crime goes through the roof, and you got to leave your business or your job, because you're a single woman, so you got to work a job.
Or you feel unsafe in your home.
Or you call the police because you got a squatter from Airbnb.
Yep.
Right? And you can't use your gun to shoot somebody in your own home.
You got to use a tarantula.
You got to go to the pet store and get the tarantula.
Deploy the tarantula.
Actually, when
it's not a deadly weapon. It's a smart move, actually. It has the same effect.
Tarantula, gun, tarantula.
I got to be honest.
It's pretty good.
The tarantula would scare the shit out of me, too.
Oh, it escaped.
Be a good way to get me out of a house, too. I'd take off running, too. I can't deal with 8-legged hairy creatures.
It was this big.
Yeah.
It was huge. I was scared bringing it home. I did the quick little toss. Get down there, buddy, and close the door.
So you're going to continue to run.
Yes.
And you are, kind of being shamed by the same cohort of people that say that I'm unfit to run for office. So I guess that makes us palsies by default. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, so to speak. And we got to continue to talk, and hopefully, we can, you can give me the female perspective and I can tell you where I'm pushing back on certain things. And I think we talked about on the phone. One of the huge things that we discussed was the family court.
A
mess. And this idea that ultimately what the family court is saying is, if you can't provide the material standard of what we deem as right, then you were better off just killing your kid. Shame on you for even having a kid if you can't provide and that is one of the dangers too of materialism is that it creates this culture where if you don't meet the standard of the materialism, it gives your leaders and your overlords, let's say, a justification to kill you.
But meanwhile, on the materialism, all those attorneys are collecting their $300, $400, $500 an hour plus all the court filing fees. So they're saying, they're double standard.
For sure. Yeah. It's just the court's a racket.
It's scamming.
Know. And what about all these people who take all the court proceedings as gospel?
Scamming.
The Michael Broad Corps and Dustin Grages, they're just saying, hey, anything that comes out of the court
is good,
is righteous.
Kind of like democracy.
Exactly.
They're writing the narrative of what they want to approve, and it's subtle. Kind of like you were saying, the shift that we've seen have been very subtle over the last however many years, and they do it through stuff like that.
So what do you make of if Joe Biden drops out and you get Kamala Harris? What do you think about that face off between Kamala and Donald Trump?
That's going to be spicy. What do you think, Professor?
Okay.
What do I think?
Yeah.
I think Kamala Harris is unfit for the office. I'll see if Dustin agrees.
On what grounds, sir?
On the grounds of
she's highly accomplished.
Highly accomplished doing what?
She has held a very significant political office.
Great. When she talks, I can't understand anything that she says.
Word salad.
I must be stupid. Okay? Somebody's stupid. It's either her or it's me. One of us is stupid. Because I listen to her very carefully.
Yes.
And she speaks in platitudes. She speaks without any depth.
It's like she's trained almost to do it.
Right?
Right.
And I think that Donald Trump is going to beat her because she is as vacuous as Joe Biden is. They were thing one and thing two. This is like Fetterman. These people were so bold with their control of this process that they just said, here's what I think, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's so corrupt that in a room somewhat like this, people just like us, but they think they're way better than we are because they graduated from Yale.
Harvard.
Our Harvard, right. And they went to law school. They sat around, they said, we're so in control of this thing. These dummies think they have a political process. They don't. It's bread and circuses. We got these people hating each other so much. Let's just see if we can elect 2 potted plants. Just because, like trading places with the 2, they bet, if they could pull it's a bet. I bet that if we do this right, we can take a demented old man and a vacuous woman and elect them president and vice president of the country.
Somebody lost a bet.
No, they won that bet, but now they're going to go again. Now, I think there's other people in the party that are saying, these people that are running this bet, hey, they're going to run us right off the road.
Right.
There's real terror. You're watching on X. I'm watching on X.
Oh, it's a meltdown.
We've never seen this before. Have you ever seen this level of anxiety?
About a president?
Yes.
Never in my life.
Or about the whole deal. It's just...
Never. People have never been more involved, and they've never been more, what's the word? They've never been more volatile than they are right now. And to the point where people are just in their corner and they're defending that side. And, the question is, like, when I'm on social media, my strategy is never to convince people who have a certain worldview, because you can't. Like, if you think it's okay to take a child to a drag stripper show, what could I convince you of? I mean, that's a non-starter. What I'm hoping is that there are people who are watching, who are getting a dose of reality,
of the contradictions,
and getting to decide for themselves. But it's hard to tell. It may be that we are just split right down the middle, and people have an alternative view of reality. And I think our view of reality, honestly, I'm always one to question my own view of reality. So please call me crazy. Hence the name. It's like, maybe I'm fucked up in the head. But I think some of our fundamental tenets pass the sniff test. I mean, it's like, I'm a citizen of a country with a border. I have rights. I have the freedom to assemble.
You're a Republican. You're
I have the right to bear arms.
Pure Republicanism as a philosophy.
I have the right to believe in God.
The people that split, they've abandoned Republicanism. And they've abandoned it for the, shall we say, prurient rewards of social liberalism, where whatever you do is okay. It's okay with us. Whatever you want to do, fine, we're good.
Yeah, but it's not. And then again, I think the contradiction is what we have to continue to stress. They say that contradiction is not in alignment with God, right? God can't exist where contradiction exists. Now, their whole argument is that God himself is a contradiction, that existence is a contradiction, which justifies their contradiction at a micro level. But there is really no...
Well, you just flamed through about 300 years of philosophy.
You like that?
I like that.
I'm just a dumb jock. I'm just a guy who shoots a ball in a hoop.
That's
Kitty's
good.
game. The Dustin Gragies are the smart ones. You fucking morons. You people couldn't go around the swimming pool, the kiddie pool. You guys stay in the kiddie pool. You're not even swimming down here on the deep end. But my point is that the contradictions are what we have to continue to lean on, to stand against. Because the contradictions tell you who these people really are. And they can make it about sexual liberation. Look, nobody has a problem. Look, half of these Republicans are freaky as hell.
Half?
Yeah.
That's being very generous.
I am being generous. I don't know the number, but I'm going to say that
a lot of them.
A lot of them. I mean, sex is, look, lust is one of the inherent struggles and hurdles of the human condition. That's just what it is, and you can no, seriously. I mean, it's as old as time itself. It's in time immemorial, man has struggled with lust. Okay, and if you're a Christian and you go by the scripture, look at the men who are the forebears of our faith, and look at the struggles they had with it. King David being obviously the great example, right? And King David is a man after the Lord's own heart, as it says in the Bible. But it didn't stop him from going after Bathsheba and killing that and sending that guy off to die in war to do it, right? And the point I'm making in that is that God already provides the room for struggles with lust and redemption forgiveness, atonement. These are tenets of our faith. The reason I'm saying it is because it's not a sexual liberation movement. It's not. That's just how it's fenced. It's got nothing to do with sex. It's got nothing to do with who you're having sex with or how you identify. It's got nothing to do with that. It's the contradiction of what they say they're trying to do it for, who they're trying to do it for, and what they actually show. Like, are you really working on behalf of the LGBT? First, it was women, Title IX. It's another hallmark of the feminist movement. Now we want women to have equality. Then we're going to let grown men like myself. Imagine me in a wig playing sports with women. And then people go, well, that's a unique example. That's a fringe example. Yeah, the fringes tell us a lot. Why can you use the fringes when you're talking about white people and then use a small rally of 20 neo-Nazis to try and depict all of white culture in America? But we can't use the fringe of how Title IX is being attacked and letting grown men like myself compete against women. The fringes tell us shit. And the fringes of the Democrat movement are in complete contradiction to what they say they're fighting for. Another one, peace, democracy. Ukraine wasn't a democracy. China's not a democracy.
Are we putting peace and democracy on the same?
For sure. It's
peace and republicanism.
No. But what I'm saying is their movement.
Using democracy.
They said that we were going to make every nation self-determining, and by making every nation self-determining, we were going to be one step closer to peace. That's post-World War II, right? We're going to go around with the military, and we're going to force democracy, liberal democracy.
Right up everybody's ass.
We're going to force it right up everybody's ass. And that will be the foundation of the peace accord amongst us.
Right. Well,
right?
We'll all believe the same thing.
At all costs, though.
Of course.
Even if we got to kill a million people to do it.
Even if Gaddafi talked to.
But I mean, is China a democracy?
No.
And then they talk about freedom. You know, the Marxists. You know, and I watched this up close. I was out there after George Floyd died, and people used the Constitution to justify their demonstration, rioting, activism,
freedom of assembly,
whatever you want to call it. But they use the American Constitution to justify it, and then they say, "Oh, it's a freedom of speech." But then they talk about reprogramming us, reprogramming Donald Trump supporters, formally, illegally, by fiat, reprogramming us, putting us in re-education camps. AOC, Nancy Pelosi, a bunch of other people. They've talked about it now publicly, reprogramming us. So don't give me the, it's just not about sexual liberation. I mean, they want to, that's how they're fencing it. And what they're doing is they're playing on people's issues with lust.
Well, you said
right.
So.
But what I'm saying is what they're doing is they're saying these Republicans want to make it so you can't go down to the club on the weekend and get a shot of tequila and have sex with who you want. Do you really want to live in that America? But their plan isn't to keep you free for long. How free, how many shots of tequila do you think you're going to get in the concentration camps? And these people think it's just reserved for MAGA Republicans. I mean, are they stupid? They have no recollection of history. In Nazi Germany, it was the Jews first, then it was the Gypsies, then it was the Romani, and then it was the Catholics.
Trade unionists and homosexuals.
And then Germans. And then sympathizers.
Well, there were a lot of more Germans from the get-go.
But I'm saying then it was even ethnic German
They were
sympathizers.
No. They were all German citizens.
No, I mean what they deemed as ethnic Germans.
Right.
Were even then
trade
yes.
unionists, Catholics.
Yes.
Right. Of course.
Then they even made the
resistors.
People who sympathize with Jews or Gypsies or Romani.
How about people that just sympathize with the Republican ideals? Because this idea of republicanism came from Europe.
Right.
This was the idea of the Republic.
My point is
the Weimar Republic.
The Weimar. My point is the contradiction. It's not just don't let them say, oh well, it's us over here with the morals and God, and then it's them over here and they just want to. I mean, yes, but let's make it way simpler than that. These people are in standing contradiction of their own beliefs, and in some ways we are too. And I feel like God's going to provide a pathway for the first person to acknowledge their own inconsistencies. You know what I'm saying?
A pathway.
That God is going to open up. And God, again, in the desert, desert opened up, swallowed them whole.
Went down in the hole.
He went down in the hole. Don't be thinking that God doesn't have wrath, because that's a part of the scripture and faith too. But my point is, a pathway is going to open up for the group that is fastest to admit and acknowledge their own inconsistencies.
And you know who that group is?
It needs to be us.
It is us.
Well, and you know why it is? because Donald Trump, and this is, look, they can go, oh, well, you're just caping up and fanboying for Trump. No, Donald Trump stepped into the Republican Party, and the first thing he did was call out the Republican Party. Mea culpa.
And they've been fighting him ever since.
Since. But it's why he's the only politician in this country that has any individual juice. What do you think about what we're saying? I'm just talking. You're the guest. I mean, we got 10, 15 minutes. Go ahead.
No, I'm just enjoying hearing you guys and kind of taking it all in. You guys, I'm more a local office and you guys are a much bigger scale. Yeah. So, but everything's connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, the global effects are local.
Wait a second. Actually,
yeah,
the politics of this country needs to be local. What you're doing as an American citizen, saying, my kid, I'm going to take care of my kid. The only way I can do that is I'm getting involved. If every American citizen would just take that act. We were at the rally today, and there was a counter protester that was there. Mm-hmm. And I was watching him. He was acting in a very animated fashion with one of our security. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of walked over just because, just to have his back, right? And the guy was really wound up. And he wanted to fight. I just talked.
He didn't want to fight the guy he was talking to. He didn't know that, but he didn't want to.
He didn't really want. He just was looking. He was looking to vent out how much he hates
Trump. He may have
Trump.
thought he wanted to fight. I guarantee he didn't want to fight him.
No, but he was looking for action.
He was wound up, yeah.
Right. And, my point was, hey, there's common ground. And here's what I said to him. You're out here at a protest, right? Yeah. Why? I hate Donald Trump. Okay, great. Are you going to vote for Trump? I said, yes, I am. And then we went, tussled a little bit. I said, you have so much energy. Why don't you join the Democrat Party? Why don't you go to your BPOE? Where do you live, man? Go to St. Louis Park. I go, why don't you go look up your party and take this energy and do something meaningful with it?
Right. Get involved in the process.
That's correct. If that's what my personal mission is. Yeah. That and getting everybody out to vote in the primary so we keep moving forward. So when you, as an American citizen, I don't really care what your background is. These people want to judge you. Who are they to be your judge? I would prefer not to be a judge. In fact, I say frequently, I don't want to judge this because I don't want to be a judge. That's not my role. I know there's people that say they're going to be judges, and look at how they get maligned. I don't want that role.
Look how corrupt our judges are.
Well, that's
our
right.
real judges.
That's correct.
Yeah.
I'm not a judge. I'm not here. I'm not interested. What I'm interested in is, are you going to be involved in the process? Are you going to be in the party? Are you going to change the party? Do you have a political philosophy, an ideology? Will you go into this basically moneyed role, because that's what it is, budgetary role, and bring about some fiscal restraint or fiscal efficiency to our budgeting process? I think that's great.
Yeah.
What the party is telling her is, you're young, you're a girl, you're good looking, we're afraid of you, we don't really care what happened, you're out.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
You're young, you're good looking.
Yeah.
We really don't know what happened, but you're not with us, you're out. You haven't been around long enough to have enough ties in the party. Mm. You're a newcomer. So they said, we're going to get rid of you.
Yes.
Same thing with you. Okay. We need every American citizen to recognize that the parties are controlled by the very corruption that's oppressing us. And the only way we're going to change this is by being involved politically. And when we do it, it's like my association with you or my new friendship with you. Actually, when good people who are not fronting, who are not full of shit, actually are just real with each other, it's actually a very well-being experience to be in an effort to make the country better. It's a beautiful thing. Sitting behind your keyboard in your underwear.
Judging
and jacking off, right?
That's
and
serious.
Then between jacking off, then you're going to tweet a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, these people are not really helping. Right. They're actually hurting everyone.
Right.
So get out from behind those keyboards, go vote, get involved, come to the next protest. Hey, guess what? We're going to have another rally coming up.
August 1st.
August 1st.
August 1st. We're going to have multiple rallies, but the next time we're going to be at the Fed here in Minneapolis is August 1st. It'll be about 2 weeks before the August primary. And the reason why is, again, nothing's changed. The Fed is still running it. And I had the same guy, the heckler. He walked by me, and he was Well, how do you feel about the Supreme Court ruling, of instituting a king again? And I go, well, you want them to prosecute Obama?
That's what I said.
And he said, well, I'm not talking about Obama. And that's another thing they do. They think they can take the conversation and keep the conversation where they want, but you can't do that with alpha men. And I said, and I don't care what you're talking about. I'm talking about Obama. Do you want them to be able to prosecute and throw Obama in jail? Oh, well, okay. You don't. Okay. So don't be doing it when our guy's in the crosshairs. And then he was like, well, what do you think about 240 years of this working relatively well? I said, you think it's working well? You think the country's actually been working well all this time? I mean, in what world did the liberals and the Marxists and the communists and the wealth redistributionists and the anti-classists, in what world did they start to conform to the idea that American history has been nothing but butterflies? I mean, it's actually the greatest sign that psyops are real. I mean, brainwashing is real. The potency of mainstream media is very real because these people have completely flipped their political belief system right before our very eyes. So I asked him, I said, you know what building we're headed to right now? He says, no. I said, you don't know what this building right here ahead of us, you know what it is? Oh, yes, the Federal Reserve. I said, that's right. He goes, well, what are you saying? You want to get rid of the Federal Reserve? Do you know how it works? Absolutely, we know how it works. That's why we're going there, right? And I say that because these people, again, what he will find out if he goes into the Democratic Party maybe won't save him. I'd like to believe that he'd go into the Democratic Party, figure out how corrupt it is, and then it'd probably spit him back out, which is what mostly parties are meant to do. Or at least that's the function, right? We see that the party pulls people in who have a lot of energy, sends them through the charnel house of nothingness and bullshit, and it spits them back out, and they're disaffected all across the state of Minnesota. And they say, I'm done with the Republican Party because it just does nothing, right? And there's a lot of Republicans who sit out because they feel that way. And it's not about the current state leadership of the Minnesota Republican Party. It's just 45, 50 years, 60 years of Republican Party politics. May not save them to even go and participate. And that we got to live with, right? That is the real sign of leadership and courage, is living with the result that you don't want, right? I mean, because really what he's going to find out if he goes to the Democratic Party isn't nothing that he hasn't already accepted. He's accepted that as a white man, he should feel guilty about the history of this country, and as a consequence, he should let the country and his government run roughshod over him, let them bend him over and just take advantage of him, have their way. He believes that. And that makes him an American cuck. And that's why I say American cuckery is a real issue and phenomenon. And I'm serious. I mean, it is funny. And I have a blast. Me and my boys, we laugh about it because we actually got KSTP Tom Hauser to ask me about
what is that
American cuckery on on local television. I mean, that was if
classic.
Nothing else from the campaign, that is a true classic. I had somebody say.
The campaign also brought us Minneapolis Republicans, the leadership,
out
Sean
themselves
Holster.
as cowards.
I mean, this was, to me,
But before you step, what I was going to say is what he will find in the Democratic Party, and this is the hallmark of the Democratic Party right now, is that white man bad. I'm black. I know the history of this country. I know the history of slavery. I know the history of racism. None of that equals up to some strange political sentiment where I say, I don't want to be a citizen anymore. I want to live in this country, but I don't want to be a citizen. I don't want to enjoy the protection of constitutional rights. It doesn't make any sense. So that's what he's going to find, and he may accept that.
No, but what they're saying,
might actually accept that.
What they're saying is republicanism and slavery is the same thing. That's how it's not about white people. It's about the philosophy of republicanism.
Right, but how did they fence it?
They fenced it.
They fenced it as racial.
Identity politics.
Right, and they do well to never let you know about the ideas.
But I have to ask myself, are these people really, truly evil to set up this kind of a trap as professors where we're going to overturn the very thing that protected us from the tyranny of the king?
Yeah.
We running out of time, brother?
No, we're not running out of time. Marissa.
Royce.
So, again, I want to ask you. So they're pulling your support from CD3.
Yes.
CD3 had endorsed you and supported you, and now they're pulling their support. And I mean, what were they doing to support you in the first place? Well,
I'm glad that you asked that.
Okay.
Whatever it was, obviously, I think what would have made the difference in the special election would have been having some of these strategic things, right? That go on behind the scenes, that it's like a business and you have systems and you run it like that. And so I only lost the special election by right around 1,000 votes on something like to come out of nowhere and against. So they won not even trying.
You lost a special election by 1,000 votes?
Yeah.
And how many people total?
About 11,000. And out of 121,000 registered voters, only 11,000 showed up for the special election. So the main problem was people didn't know about it. And I think what you're saying is we got to get our people out and caring and motivated, because sometimes all you have to do is show up. It's like anything in life, right? Sports, you just show up and you move forward and you take action.
Yeah. So
yeah.
the CD3, you're not really worried about them pulling their support. You're just going to keep plowing forward anyway.
I mean, whatever role that they possibly could have provided, I've already mentally decided how I was going to mitigate that. I didn't feel their support for quite some time. And that's one of the reasons why, because they have a huge area of my district. And support is not just verbal. Support ultimately is the action.
Right.
So I was already behaving as if I did not have their support just based on by reading their actions. So a formal statement of pulling support, well, it's nothing new to me. Like I've been reading and paying attention to the action, what they've been doing. Right. It's like, well, you didn't support me anyways.
I met a citizen at the rally today, and he I asked him if he was in the party. He says, "Well, I'm really nobody. I'm just a little guy." I go, "Why are you in the party?" He goes, "I am, but it's nothing." I go, "What do you do in the party?" He goes, "I'm a precinct chair." That is the most important role in America. Yeah. That's the person who stood up in his neighborhood and said, "I will organize our neighborhood." When you say you don't have any support, it's because this hasn't gone on for a long time, where we've gone in and found people in every neighborhood to be the Republican in that neighborhood, to spread a Republicanism in that neighborhood. Yeah. We don't do it as Republicans.
And we damn sure don't do it in CD5 in Minneapolis or St. Paul.
Well, that was my biggest bitch. How many times have I told you my biggest bitch with the Republican Party is we abandoned CD5 and we abandoned the inner city.
Now that's what makes you a jerk off. I mean, that's why if you watch my podcast at the end, I used to sign off with, don't do it anymore, but I used to sign off with, don't die a jerk off. There are a lot of people who wanted "Don't Die a Jerk Off" T-shirts. We got to have to get those T-shirts.
We're gonna start a hashtag judging and jerking off, or what was you say?
Yes. But that does make you a jerk off. You know, when you actively and intentionally abandon the inner cities as a political party, and then you use those inner cities and the condition and circumstance to not only raise money, but to continue to complain and use it as kind of
raise money.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I'm more so talking about on that individual basis when people sit in front of their television, watch Fox News.
And then send money.
Yeah, and they send money.
Please.
Yes.
Aren't you afraid?
But I'm talking about the personal get off. The personal get off is those people down there are my problem.
And please send money.
No, they're not. You're your problem.
Right.
You're your problem. Your political leaders are your problem because you had the winning arguments. Like today when we went down to you know how many young black men that I talk to on a daily basis now that are like, dude, we're voting Donald Trump, dude. I didn't have to tell them. I didn't, and I'm good at articulating the philosophy. I think I'm fairly decent at articulating the fundamentals of our worldview on this side of the movement. But I don't even have to convince them. They already see it. They're like, no, dude, we're voting Republican, dude. We're not dealing with this shit anymore. Can you imagine if we would have had people in the cities doing that and preaching the fundamentals of what we believe in the whole time and backing it up? Part of the problem is we didn't want to back it up, right? And part of the problem, again, is we were in on the racket. We were in on the racket.
That's my point. The first thing is we got to clarify the party,
right.
And that's why there's so much fight in the party.
That's why Dustin Grady doesn't like you.
And you are, right, and you're a kind of a collateral damage in that, because we have a full-blown throwdown in every Republican Party, in every state, nationally, because what we really have here is a party that's controlled by conservatives. They're conservatives. And they're so proud of being conservative. but they have nothing to do with being Republicans.
Mm.
They're their own group, conservative group. Whereas you like to say, which I think is great, when Steve Bannon was
Debating with David Frum.
David Frum, and Frum said the goal of conservatives is to
conserve what is good about liberalism.
Great.
What is good about
Okay, here's the truth for all these people. The Republican Party, the Republicanism is a politically liberal ideology. The Democrat Party is also a liberal ideology, but it's a political liberalism on the Republican side and social liberalism on the Democrat side. And when we start to really think about what that means, we'll make some progress. I'm about free speech. I'm about freedom of assembly, due process, no aristocracy, no hereditary divine right.
political liberalism.
Political liberalism. Okay, it's based on what? The search for truth.
Right.
Okay? I'm not saying people can't be socially liberal, but I am saying that when you are in a lustful state of mind, you're probably not thinking about the search for truth. You're searching for something completely different. You know, and I'm smiling because I've been there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm happy to admit that I get it.
Yeah.
But I'm watching my stepson. It's so pure.
Young love.
It's just
I've been there too. I was there.
It's love. I don't know why do we have to put a
nothing to do
label
with
on
money.
it?
It has nothing to do with materialism. It's just like that natural connection between
Two people.
men and women. Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And young men and women used to, hook up and be married at that young age, at 15 years old.
To preserve
Yeah.
and to maintain that connection.
Yeah.
She's probably going to go to college, and they're probably not going to stay together, probably. But to see it, to be reminded.
But Brian's a good young Catholic. You didn't mention that he's a good young Catholic.
He's
kid
a great
too.
young Catholic.
Yeah.
He's great.
So when a young Catholic man loves you, it's a little different. A little young Catholic man.
I reminded him
Yeah.
that he has to love the search for truth first.
Amen. Yeah.
You know, that is his number one mission. I said, if you do that, she'll probably love you longer.
Yeah.
Right.
You love yourself.
Right. That's
Yeah.
that's exactly correct.
Yes.
Don't lose yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting to see something so beautiful, so up close. It's almost like being at the zoo.
It's a weird analogy.
Well, but our culture has moved so far away from that.
Okay.
Think of where our culture is at as regarded love.
Zoo. What animal cage am I looking at here?
I was wondering that too. Which one? Just pick an animal.
But just think what the conversation, why I brought that up was we're talking about this transactional relationship that's developed between men and women,
Right.
which might have something to do with Marxism.
Oh, 100%.
Okay?
Yeah.
And with
But
social
the entire sexual revolution and women's suffrage movement was sponsored by people who obviously believed in Marxism, secular humanism, post-enlightenment, and again, the real gaffe here is like we use these terms like liberalism and communism and really you just don't know enough history to realize that liberalism, communism, and neoclassicism came from the same branch of
European intellectual thought.
European intellectual tradition. So not much separation between the three when you get to the highest level, which is why your contemporary liberals seem so much like communists. Well, they are communists. They actually openly identify as communists.
What do they say? It walks like a duck and quacks like a It's probably a duck.
Probably a duck.
Yeah.
The liberals, Nazis, Nazi Germany, working class, unionized, became the bourgeoisie, stole political power. They stole it. And then they constituted a police state to protect that power and silence their political opponents. That's exactly what the liberals are doing now.
And they're accusing Donald Trump of going to do the same thing.
Oh, that's an easy thing. It's like when two kids are in the back seat fighting and you go, you did it. No, you did it.
He touched me.
Oh, give me a break. That's the liberals' go-to move. No, you did it. You're doing it. They're just accusing people of what they're doing. And they're just gaslighting us. And the thing is that, again, to go back to my profanity use, if you're such a little cuck motherfucker that you're going to sit there and let people gaslight you who are anti-human and anti-God, don't talk to me about Christianity.
And then this is the great part. It's the Christians
Yeah.
who are going to be the first ones taken to the gulags for extermination.
That's called poetic justice,
oh,
buddy.
man.
Brother, that's poetic justice.
They're the ones that say they can't vote for you if you swear.
You know that Shakespearean is poetic justice. Is
Right.
The
I
justice
get it.
at the end is usually tragic and sort of unironic. So of course, that's how it's going to happen.
It's crazy.
You Christians are going to be first because you were scared to stand up and bear witness, speak the truth. You thought that Christianity was all about being polite and passive and polite. Turn the other cheek, forgive thy neighbor has become the hallmark of American Christianity. It's so sanitized. What about
Matthew 10:34. I've not come to bring peace, but I've come with a sword to turn father-in-law against son-in-law and mother-in-law against daughter-in-law.
We blocked that
And
scripture
the
out.
enemy, your enemy will be in your own household. That's right in.
Squatting in the basement. Believe.
Where's that tarantula first? And when the enemy's in the basement, thou taketh the tarantula and throw it down the stairs.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's a great place to end. Marissa, any parting shots? Where do people go to find you on social media and your campaign website? And
Yeah, so my website's my name, Marissa with one S, Simonetti.com, and just search Marissa Simonetti on Twitter.
yeah, and
Yeah.
you got your fundraising still, and you're doing all of that stuff.
Yeah, yep.
You got yard signs, and people can help and volunteer. And
Yeah, so all that is through my website. They can
Good.
check what they want to do. And I think the biggest what won for me in the special election was people in the community who took responsibility of their own accord and got the word out, got their neighbors out. So people have, like you said, the people are coming. They have a real opportunity to step up here.
yeah, and if not now, the ball is already rolling, and there's nothing that says. I mean, for me and Marissa as young political candidates, there's nothing that says we have to stop. That's really what they're trying to do. Let me show you what they're really trying to do to you, because I feel it in my own situation. They're trying to develop this consensus about our political viability and discourage us from being involved in the process ever again. They're trying to create a narrative that's so potent, or at least it seems so potent, that you dare not stay involved in the process, right? That's what they're trying to do to me. They're like, well, if you get blown out in the primary, well, one, if you don't win the primary as an endorsed candidate, that would go against, Minnesota voting pattern for candidates who were endorsed at the convention. So there must be something wrong with you as a candidate, your baggage. Or if you get beat by Klobuchar by, double digits, then that proves that you don't. That's why the theme, the people are coming, is so perfect, because it doesn't put a stop date to it, because there is no stop date. Like Steve said, it's next man up. We're going to keep fighting until we get the result that we're looking for, until we get the result we're happy with, that gives us well-being, prosperity, citizenship. Pardon shots, Professor Penn.
I think that it's time for Minnesotan citizens to stop looking at the curated exterior of created candidates. I think Marissa's comment that they don't have a soul, that's a little bit far. I don't want to say people are soulless, but when they're created for an effect, and what they are touting is the exact same set of policies that brought us to the horrifying brink of disaster we find ourselves at. And a lot of these people like Grady and Brock, they don't even see it. A lot of people don't even see the dire place that we're in.
No, they do.
No, they're propagandized. A lot of them are too fucking stupid to see it.
Don't believe it.
Then why don't they take action?
I'll tell you.
Please.
They love the status quo.
But the status quo is going to go bye-bye.
No. They'll enmesh themselves in the new status quo.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
not Nazis.
That's how cucked they are.
They're Nazis.
And the Nazis were a bunch of cucks.
They're Nazis.
I mean, honestly.
They even dressed like cucks.
They did. They absolutely did.
They were smashing with that
did.
shit.
I'm glad you realized that. Well, you're biased because you're Jewish. But I got to say, I agree with you. And that Nazi Hitler thing they had going, there's a great sense of masculine insecurity and needing a bunch of other guys next to you to feel like you have the righteous power to move forward with your agendas or with your worldviews. Most strong, courageous men stand alone. And that's part of the reason why we're losing this country too, is because most of your real fighters are so disgusted and repulsed by like some of our military friends, right? Some of our guys who are actually trained, who been in the thing and, you know, got some sacred honor left, and they would die, and they would die for the man next to them. A lot of them are repulsed by the political representation, so they just stay away from it because they can't even bring their brain to that place. The Michael Broadcorps and Dustin Grays, these people crave tyranny. They can say they're Republican, but the
truth is they do crave tyranny
Yes.
because that's what they're promoting.
Yeah.
And what I'm
Yes.
trying to say is, as citizens, we're a citizens movement. Every one of these people, even the ones that are curated, have the same addiction to sin that each one of us have. They're all struggling for their own redemption.
Yeah.
Some of them have just given up and given in. Some of them don't even struggle. We see them on the nightly news. You can just look at their face and go, oh, this person's not struggling anymore. They've given over.
They're having at it.
They're having at it, man.
Yeah.
They're on the payroll and they're good with it.
Yeah.
But we have American citizens now that with all of their complexity and all of their struggles, that's not going to define who they are. It's their love of their fellow citizens. And that's what I said one other time on this show, and I'll say it again. It does not matter what you've done. It doesn't matter who you are. If you give over to saving the United States of America, your sins will be forgiven. And that's the power of redemption that these very same people want to preclude because they want to trap us in sin so they can use us for inventory.
Mm.
And I have something to say to them. Fuck you people. We're not doing this anymore. The people are coming. The people are coming, and they're coming full of faith and full of fire. We're not going to stop. We'll never be happy. We're going to just keep fixing this thing and fixing this thing because that's the nature of the game. Because whenever we relax ever again, the evil will come right back because it comes from inside of ourselves. It's our republicanism that drives us to the world that we want for your child, my 5 children, your 4 children.
Yep.
Right here, we got 10 kids amongst us. That's a minion in Judaism. We all get together and pray together. That's what we need. We need people to not look at the outside, look at the inside.
Mm.
Amen. Amen. Marissa, Simonetti, thank you for being here. It was a pleasure. Glad you got to tell a little bit of your story. We got to have you back on the podcast. I think the audience is going to like Marissa.
We're having fun.
Young politicians that say it like it is. That's what the country's dying for. The great Professor Penn, my dear friend.
It was great to do it. We hadn't done it for a while. We did it last week.
And don't forget to tune into the Professor Penn podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Central.
Which you're so kindly streaming on your X channel, where I'm getting great engagement. Thank you very much.
Yes. Well, we want to give the best voices the opportunity.
Oh, wait a second.
Come through the ether.
RoyceWhite.us. If you think this stuff happens by accident, he won't, because, he won't. I will. Please go to RoyceWhite.us. Please support this. This is about us.
Yeah.
Nobody's grifting here.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate both of you being here. This is a really fun podcast. I appreciate both of you being down at the Fed and supporting us in that rally and in that march. And we were only
August 1st.
August 1st, we're going again. If you're in the Minneapolis area, if you're in the surrounding area, come on down. If you're in Iowa, Wisconsin, South Dakota, make a trip out to Minnesota.
We had guys drive in. They had these beautiful tricked out Trump trucks.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
I mean, we could make it into a car rally. Whatever.
A car show.
A
Trump car show.
Come on in.
Ooh, I like that.
Do you like that?
I like that idea. We'll do something special. If you're in the surrounding regional area and you can make it to Minneapolis on August 1st, we're going to do another march and rally to the Federal Reserve, because I guarantee you between now and August 1st, nothing will have changed systematically with the way that the Fed's stealing your money. So I appreciate both of you for being there, and I appreciate all the other American citizens and patriots that came out today. And don't let them discourage you. Oh, you guys only had 50 people. 50 people.
The brave and the free came out.
50 people is a phalanx. You know how much, that's another thing they try and make you feel like a small number of people can't get anything done. A small number of people is insignificant, and that's wholly un-American. Happy 4th of July to everybody. I hope you had a great Independence Day, and we'll see you tomorrow morning on Real America's Voice at 9 a.m. Eastern for the Royce White Show before War Room. And I couldn't leave the podcast this evening without saying thank you to the great Steve Bannon for his sacrifice We love you, brother. Our thoughts and prayers are with you. I can't wait to come back and pick you up in 119 days, 118 days. Can't say enough about Steve Bannon and what he sacrificed for this country, and how wrong and unjust it is that he's being held in a federal prison for a misdemeanor. Obviously, political weaponization of the court, and we must always be mindful and vigilant of the tyranny and corruption of the United States court system. That's it for me. The fight continues. Thank you guys both again. We appreciate your viewership and listenership today and in the future. Godspeed.